Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA, and we are live once again. How is everybody doing today? I've been in a contemplative mood these last couple days over the weekend. I've been a lot of bile and vinegar over the past couple years. And hey, what's up, man? Kevin the Caveman. We love Yugoslavia, don't we, folks? I mean, I have been spitting all over this scumbag piece of shit centrist Democrats and all their imperialist running dogs. But it's one of those things where we're at the point where centrist Democrats have been completely defeated and discredited, and in their moment of defeat, they have rushed to reinforce Trumpism. Cotter Eat Pants replying to Joe Biden, your legacy is one of genocide, and your hubris will be remembered as what led America to total fascist oligarchy. If only your wife could live long enough after you pass just to experience a fraction of the pain and loneliness that those misplaced and without their loved ones in Gaza will have experienced due to your ineptitude. If God's watching, he looks on you with disgust. Had Grok write that, by the way. Don't know what that means. Do you play Fortnite, Joe? Why is this ire never directed to the right? I think the one thing that I would say as we face this second inaugural of Donald Trump. Welcome home, President Biden says to President-elect Trump. Okay, yeah, we need to get in this. We need to get in this. We need to get some of the live coverage. Who has the best live coverage? Who should we cover this? Who should we watch?
Wide circle of communication where he talks to lawmakers and other people outside of the government.
President Biden said that's between Trump and me. And the tradition continues as a president leaving the workforce and
because June
it's
do we miss it?
a president saying the era of big government is over. Who was that again?
Yes.
A Democratic president who said that. And so it has been popular by both presidents to say it is time to shrink the federal government. I think overwhelmingly the American people, the taxpayers would like a more efficient
what a
government.
Surprise.
No one would object to a more efficient DMV.
And not all that unique.
You know, what's the record of America since Bill Clinton? Collapse. The end of the era of big government has led directly to the collapse of America. American infrastructure destroyed, American manufacturing destroyed, income inequality skyrocketing, racial tension is now spiking again. We have immigration problems because of what? Our warmongering foreign policy. Why are there millions of migrants fleeing to this country? Because we're sanctioning Venezuela. Why? We want to steal their oil. We are sanctioning Cuba. Why? Because they threw out slave corporations 70 fucking years ago. And we don't want any country to resist America. If you resist America, no matter how righteous you are, no matter how correct you are, America will make it their mission to destroy your nation. We are Satan incarnate. And until we do something about every single person you see on the fucking screen is a problem.
Now, everybody's been talking about history today. So let me put that in context. Donald Trump's optimism number is higher than the last time that he took office. Maybe no surprise there. More people voted for him this time, right? But you also see when you compare it to CBS News polling over the years for past presidents, there were higher numbers. There were 79 for Obama, 68 for...
More people are optimistic for Donald Trump than Joe Biden. More people are optimistic for Donald Trump than they were for Joe Biden. This is a complete and utter refutation of Joe Biden, of centrist Democrats. We were told the fever would break, and the fever has intensified. At a certain point, you need to start trying a different treatment.
George H.W. Bush. The reason for that is the partisan era that we live in. There are Democrats optimistic about incoming President Trump, but there are also a lot of Democrats who say that they're demoralized, who say that they're pessimistic. So that's a reflection of more recent times and that partisan era.
I wouldn't want 60% on a test, but when you look at that, optimism for the next 4 years, considering what we've been through as a country, why are they so optimistic?
That is the key question. And the answer is the economy, Gail. Let me show you this. one of the big reasons, if not the big reason, that Donald Trump won was Americans' dissatisfaction with what they said was a bad economy, and also specifically about prices, inflation. Well, look at this. Especially for Trump voters, they expect now his policies to bring down grocery prices. We all know presidents don't have magic wands to do that. President Biden found that out, right? But at the same time, this really sets up a key metric for what we watch going forward. And then I'll also show you this. You've got the expectations for the U.S. economy. Right now, as I said, they rate it as bad. But when we ask them, what do you expect for 2025? It's that the economy will be good. So that's really the first thing, and voters tell us this, that's the first thing they want the new president to address.
And then, Anthony, what about immigration?
Yeah, this is also interesting because all through the campaign, we saw that there was support for things like deportation, and that's still the case among all Americans. You see approval of the idea, in principle, of starting a program to deport immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. And then I've got to point out, among Trump voters, that goes up to a whopping 90%. So you talk about these executive orders, you talk about these policies that we report he's going to try to implement. This is one that definitely plays to his base. But I should add, when you probe a little deeper and ask people, well, how should this be carried out, things get more mixed. Not necessarily, folks say, using the U.S. military to do that, maybe using current law enforcement. And of course, there's a lot of details in this. This is one of the things we're going to...
I just want to say that the reason why there is 55-45 is because Democrats have begun to waffle on this. So it's the Democrat number that went around from around 10% to around 35%. And that's right there, ladies and gentlemen, where the support for this more harsh immigration policy comes from. But I just saw a poll the other day which showed that when you actually ask Americans about how we would do such a thing, there is massive majority opposition to any policy that Donald Trump would implement against immigrants. But here's the thing that you need to understand. And here's something that I want you to understand, which is that the American state is the largest organization in the world. It has more resources and more power than any organization in the world. And if you give the American state into the hands of a malign actor, it can move mountains. And that's exactly what we've done. And the Democratic Party and the liberals saying the government can't do anything, that's against norms. I want you to understand something. People have called norms a rule book, but they aren't a rule book. They aren't even a rule book. There's no laws. There's no enforcement. Norms are just expectations of behavior. I'll give you an example of a norm. You go to a diner and you start eating your pancakes with a spoon. That's a violation of norms. But is it against the law? Is that actually harmful? Democrats are screaming, the Republicans are firing the parliamentarian. That's against the norms. Nobody fucking cares. Ro Khanna is an absolute fucking loser.
They're related.
It's an excellent point, Major. Thank you so much for pointing that out about the size and scope of the federal workforce and in what states where they are centered. You can now see the first ladies together entering one of the presidential limos to make their way to Capitol Hill.
Jill McBiden, folks.
Just want to update you just a short time ago. President Biden was asked, what's your message today? And he answered and said, my message is simple. It's hope. And then they asked him, did you write Trump a letter? And he said, I did.
Politics forever.
And then he was asked, what did you say? And
nobody's ever going to give a shit what Joe Biden says ever again. Literally. There's never been a man who was less revered in the White House. There's never been a man who had less support than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a sham. He's a joke. He's the ultimate expression of the hollowing out of the Democratic Party of anything that makes it worthwhile. The fact that you fucking motherfuckers voted for that piece of fucking shit is disgusting.
Remember that today Donald Trump is going to learn about things or feel the weight of things that are in the deepest secrets of the federal government. Barack Obama learned about the cyber hacking operation against the Iranians on Inauguration Day. He also learned there was a terrorist plot on the mall, and he had a script in his pocket that if the terrorist plot went down, he was going to read evacuation instructions on that day. It is a day where you learn serious things are happening.
This is it. We just got a shot there. That was Susie.
Let us for a moment contemplate a better world.
Trump, but also bringing order and stability to the many people that are around Donald Trump.
That's
and Robert, one of the things that has been reported too is that even as they get ready to enter the White House, she's already set out to change some of the things that perhaps hampered.
Right now, and you think it was nearly 10 years ago that Donald Trump came down that golden escalator at Trump Tower, and what has happened in that near decade since? And it was only in late May of this year he was convicted in a New York court. It was only in July He survived an assassination attempt. And now, January 20th, 2025, he's about to be sworn in as the 47th president
because
of the
China
United States.
Win.
What a political journey.
Legitimately, I just saw a post this morning from Betsy DeVos. And this is, let me see if I could find it. Betsy DeVos. And she said on her post, the time has come, sunset the Department of Education. And my reaction to that is, maybe they should. Not because it's a good policy, but because it'll put America so far behind the Chinese that China will win. And listen, I have no illusions that the Chinese government is going to necessarily be good. But at this point, like, they're graduating like 10 times as many engineers as we are.
Was inaugurated. Trump said, and he's going, first of all, he's leaving at Andrews. There's nobody there except for his family. And he says, goodbye, we love you, we will be back in some form. This is the form.
And as we watch President Biden and President-elect Trump heading to Capitol Hill, we're going to take a quick break. You're watching.
China graduates between 1.4 million and 1.5 engineering graduates annually. That's about 1/3 of the world's total engineering graduates. They are going to eat our fucking lunch. I don't know if you guys saw, but they're going back to the moon. They have the best space station in space. They've just invested $525 billion in renewable energy. They're the world's leading investors in a 4th generation nuclear and fusion energy. They've built 47,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. 2 weeks ago, they just published that they just showed a prototype train that could go 450 kilometers an hour. They've built 40 metro stations in the last 15 years the size of Boston. It's fucking Jover. They have 240 times the shipbuilding capacity that we do. And Donald Trump is really just, I don't know how else to put it. He is the end of the American empire. He is the Nero, fiddling while it burns. It's just that simple. So yes, it sucks to be an American and see our country being hollowed out for the ridiculous racial theories that white people are better. What the fuck is white? Is a Polish person white? Is an Italian white? Is a Greek white? Is a Lebanese person white? What the fuck is white? Is Irish white? Is Portuguese white? You tell me what the fuck white is. I don't know what the fuck white is. We have the most cockamamie racial theory since Aryanness under the Nazi Party. Are Spanish people white, but Mexicans aren't? It's like one of the most incredible pieces of shit I've ever, like, the non-coherent cope. It's just, there's nothing intelligent in there. And by the way, what are their policies? Let's be honest. Let's examine their policies. Their policies are tax cuts, removing regulation. You like having PFAS in all your fucking food products? Polluted air. We're going to drill, baby drill, as California burns down, which is the largest state with the largest economy in the largest state.
Welcome back to CBS News coverage of the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. You are watching the motorcade carrying President Joe Biden and
personal handmaid to Israel. Donald Trump is basically on his knees in front of Israel. Pathetic. Here's what I would like to do. Here's what I would like to explain to you, motherfucking worthless sacks of shit liberals who come into my chat. You fucking suck. And this is your avatar. On his knees. Welcome home, you fucking pathetic loser fucks. You suck more fascist. I mean, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, this is what it is. Like, oh, we gotta beat Donald Trump. Look at this fucking demented old bat.
Extraordinary moment to watch the 46th president, Joe Biden, greet the 45th and now the 47th president. We haven't seen this since Grover Cleveland, a president returning to the White House, separated by one term. The first ladies behind them.
I mean, welcome home is that's the perfect exclamation point to Biden's legacy. That's the end of Biden's legacy. Welcome home to Donald Trump. I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember this moment. In 4 years, if we get another chance at having a presidential election and somebody's like, well, we need to have somebody electable, I want you to remember, I want you to burn this in your memory. That Joe Biden, who was supposedly going to put the end to Trumpism, who's the safe pick, was utterly humiliated because he didn't do anything. And Americans want change. God damn it, they want change, and they want it now. And they're willing to, I mean, a plurality of Americans were willing to give Donald Trump a second chance because they are just so disgusted with the status quo. Do you understand how pathetic this is? Do you understand how this is a complete and utter refutation of centrist Democrats? Like, this is Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I mean, give me a fucking, like, this is an empire falling because the Democrats cannot and will not do anything to help Americans live better lives.
Arrived about an hour ago. The former presidents arrived about 30 minutes ago. This whole show happens inside the Capitol Rotunda.
And look at our
striking contrast to the image that Nancy described from 8 years ago.
I will say this: if Donald Trump starts arresting Democratic elites, that would be the best thing that could ever have happened to America. Like, if he put Nancy Pelosi in prison, if he started putting Hakeem Jeffries in prison, if he started arresting these motherfuckers, I would endorse it and I would support it because it would actually break the oligarchic hold that it has on people's minds. We need another opposition party. The Democratic Party has led us to complete and utter disaster, and I support their being prosecuted for the crimes they've committed. Period. He didn't do it last time. Yeah, he's not going to do it. They're the same team. They're the same team. There's Klobuchar smiling, escorting Donald Trump in. Like, what is this? Remember, guys, these are the fascists that hey, give up all your dreams of a better life. We've just got to vote blue no matter who, guys. Vote blue no matter who.
Where I said, you're populist. And he said, no, Bob, I'm common sense. Common sense, in his view, encapsulates his entire political agenda, his political career. He doesn't want to be seen as a, quote, conservative, but some common sense outsider businessman coming in.
You could see the presidents there, followed by members of the leadership. Let's bring in congressional correspondent Nicole Killian. She's inside the Capitol as we look at some of the tech titans, the head of Google and Elon Musk there as well. And Nicole, what have we learned about the program?
Well, we have learned that, of course, to no surprise to anyone, obviously this will be taking place in the Rotunda as opposed to outside on the west front of the Capitol. Worth noting that it's not unusual for these types of ceremonies to take place at different places throughout the Capitol. Sometimes they have been on the east front, the west front, but in this case, because of the weather, we will see that swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Trump in the Rotunda, followed by his inaugural address. And of course, after that, we will see what we always see every 4 years. We saw President-elect Trump and President Biden ride up to the Capitol together, but then following that inaugural address will come that moment where then President Trump will see off President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, who you saw earlier in the program, that helicopter there on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. And so at that point, we will see that official transfer of power with President Biden departing and President Trump then remaining here at the Capitol. At that point, he is expected to address an overflow crowd in Emancipation Hall, where our Nancy Cordes is. Of course, again, because this is taking place inside, so many supporters are not able to be here, but there are a few gathered here at the Capitol, in addition to the many lawmakers you see there in the Rotunda. At that point, we expect that the president will participate in a signing ceremony where we do expect him to sign a number of executive orders, both here at the Capitol and at Capital One Arena, where he will join supporters later in the day. Of course, right now we are seeing some of the president-elect's cabinet designees enter. Many of them have already been through confirmation hearings here on Capitol Hill. We have seen many of them here in the halls of Congress. You just saw Pete Hegseth, of course, one of the president-elect's more controversial nominees, but in speaking to several sources, both here on the Hill and with the president-elect's team, they still believe, they're very confident that they believe he will eventually be confirmed, potentially with a vote, at least out of committee, as soon as this week. I would just quickly point out, as you see John Ratcliffe there, he is the president-elect's CIA pick. We could see a vote on him as soon, potentially, as today, along with Marco Rubio, the president-elect's pick for Secretary of State. Nora.
Nicole Killian, thank you. That's right. You can see members of the president's proposed cabinet coming in together there. And we are hearing that his nominee for Secretary of State could be voted not only out of committee today, but also out of the full Senate. Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary.
The Democrats are going to put down the red carpet for Donald Trump to install as many people as possible. Meanwhile, Republicans just blocked the National Labor Relations Board with the help of centrist Democrats so that it would be open for Donald Trump. This is basically the crisis here. If you're one of those, if you're a liberal and you're here and you're not convinced with me that Democrats are the problem, not Republicans. They aren't. Like, Republicans represent a minority position in America, period. Most people do not like them. The only issue is they've organized and maximized their base, while the left in America is fractured and divided. Why? Because we don't believe in anything. Because it's not organized around any ideas. Everybody's trying to grift for themselves. That's the reality. The Democratic Party is even more corrupt than the Republican Party. Why is that? Because the Republican Party is not burdened by corruption. They just say, I'm here, I'm a sellout. I'm a sellout. I'm here to take money from the rich, and I'm here to support the interests of the rich. So when they do that, they don't look like hypocrites. When Democrats do it, they look like corrupt hypocrites. So they become even more contemptible. And this is the reality of our crisis, is that the Democrats are the problem because they cannot provide opposition to the right wing. There's always going to be some sort of right wing. But you know when the right wing was the most tamed in America? When the left was the most bold in America. When the left had the most power in America. The conservatives were like, will you please listen to my union growth plan, sir? It's when you try to compromise and capitulate to the right that they become even more extreme. Over 4 years, we were praying for a centrist to collapse and progressives to reform the party, but unfortunately, we live in the wrong timeline, and Hillary will be running in 2028. Here's what I'll say. If the Democratic Party is not destroyed or seized by a progressive in 2028, it is our duty to sabotage them to the maximum possible degree until the Democratic Party collapses. This is basically my opinion. Either the person who wins in 2028 is on the left, or we fight to collapse the Democratic Party. And it's not going to take much because the approval rating of the Democratic Party is at an all-time low.
A symptom of something dark and dangerous in America. White supremacy, extremists, terrorists within the United States. He warned about all of those dark forces coming back into America. Whether those are dark forces or not, President Trump returns to power and can recontextualize all of January 6, 2021 as something that, if it's momentary or not, did not discourage him and did not dissuade the American public for reinvesting him with powers he is about to possess in this room and the Capitol Rotunda in moments from now.
It's an excellent point, Major Garrett. Thank you. And there is going to be massive change here in Washington, Margaret.
There is. It was notable there, Nora, that Mike Pence, the former vice president, walked in.
And the American people are smiling when they hear that. The American people are smiling to hear that. That's why Donald Trump won, because he was, in 2016 and in 2024, the change candidate. The change candidate has been winning since basically 2008 in America. American people are going to keep trying to get change. And if you don't deliver change, you're going to get thrown out of your ass. And here's all the richest motherfucking scum. One of the things that you should be aware of is that there is no chance there's a terrorist attack. There's no chance that a terrorist attack would ever hit this rotunda. And the reason why is because every evil terrorist scumbag on the planet is literally connected to the CIA. So, you know, they're not going to be attacking far-right American shit. This is the safest place on the planet because every single terrorist works for these motherfuckers.
had not heard an entire presidential campaign warning us of the dark future should Donald Trump be elected. We're now going to test and see what happens. Nora, it's also interesting to see who was invited to this inauguration. There are a number of leaders. That is unusual, but it's also unusual to see who was personally invited. One of them, the Prime Minister of Italy, a conservative leader within Europe. That seems a symbolic invitation, but there are also party leaders from within Europe, as you and I spoke about the other day, from the very far-right movement, anti-immigrant movements within Europe, in Germany and in France, who sent representatives. And as you hear Viktor
By the
Orban,
way, what caused those massive migrant surges into Europe? The American intervention in Iraq and Syria and Libya. So if you, I mean, like, let's be honest for a second. I want to be absolutely 100% clear and honest with no varnish about reality, okay? And if you don't agree with me, fine. Vast majority of people don't want to go anywhere. They like their families, they like their friends, they like the customs to which they've been acclimated, they like the food, they have a blood connection and a heart connection to the people that they come up raised by, okay? Most people don't want to move thousands of miles across the world where they don't know the language, they don't know the customs, they're going to be treated like shit. They can't speak the language. They're going to work the shittiest jobs. They only do that when their own world is being fucking destroyed. Or if they're extremely ambitious and they have some sort of like short-term economic, cognizable economic motivation. But if their country was doing well, if their people were doing well, the vast, vast, vast majority of people would stay right there at home. These immigration surges are directly the result of the American foreign policy destroying places around the fucking world for our own so-called gain. And then you see people having backlash as large amounts of unassimilated migrants are being dumped into their communities, which have simultaneously seen social services cut that back. Is it not normal to look out on the streets and see homeless people everywhere and go, why are we not spending our money on these people? Why aren't we helping our fellow citizen? Why, when I go into my child's public school, is there 45 children in the classroom? There's textbooks from 1998. There's asbestos on the walls. Of course it's normal to look at that and object to it. Now, I personally understand the xenophobic anti-immigrant hate is simply misplaced. You should be hating these motherfuckers. And there it is, George W. Bush. I have to make a comment on this. The entire Democratic strategy since 2016 has been to get this man to endorse the Democratic president, and he never fucking did. I'm going to appeal to the people who, like George W. Bush, has been the entire Democratic strategy since 2016, and it epically failed because he left office with a 22% approval rating, you fucking worthless sacks of shit.
Very small 200-person lunch afterwards, and President Trump specifically expressed his gratitude that they were both there and for their service to the country. It's that kind of moment when a lot of things are put aside. Sometimes they're pretty quickly recaptured, but this is a day that's more about democracy than party.
And as we mentioned, these are members of Donald Trump's family that you just saw there, and former President Barack Obama heading to the Rotunda platform, not joined by Michelle Obama. She did not also come to Washington for the funeral of Jimmy Carter, just recently celebrating her birthday.
Presidential Inaugural Committee. Committee co-chair, Mr. Steve Witkoff.
And just mentioned the committee co-chair, Steve Witkoff, who in addition to these responsibilities as co-chair of the inaugural committee, Margaret Brennan has just recently returned from Israel after working to help broker that deal to bring the hostages home.
Donald Trump's best friend, as he describes himself, also a real estate developer, and now the closer on this major diplomatic deal between Israel and Hamas. We'll have to see if the Trump team is able to continue to corral both sides to stay on track with a very complex deal that, if it works, would see the return of as many as 3 Americans who are still believed to be held hostage by Hamas and other terror groups.
Does Donald Trump call him the best friend, Margaret, or as you said, self-professed best friend?
I don't know. Ask Bob Costa.
Bob Costa, you would know the answer to that question.
There are a lot of so-called best friends here for President-elect Trump.
Margaret, on the hostage ceasefire deal, Are you of the view that it took both presidents to get this done?
Yes.
If they both hadn't been involved, it wouldn't have happened?
It is absolutely remarkable, and the Biden team is very clear about that. We had the negotiator, Brett McGurk, on Face the Nation yesterday. He calls Steve Witkoff also a friend at this point. It was the idea that you can't find divisions between the two administrations, and the fear on the Israeli side that Donald Trump, who has been such an ally of Benjamin Netanyahu, might not take so kindly if he says no to a deal he wants. That helped. So while Brett McGurk was in Doha pressing the Qataris to get Hamas, it was Steve Witkoff pressing the Israelis to get to yes. And that combined power got them there. Now we'll have to see if they can keep them on track with this deal to bring those Americans back and the rest of the hostages.
We just saw Tim Cook a moment ago talking to someone, but I'm curious, Senator, have you ever seen this many business leaders and these business leaders at this stature at an inauguration before?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember if they would have been at the Obama. I think not. And of course, so much of this wealth has been created in the last decade. It's an incredible accumulation of wealth and success by these individuals. And frankly, they don't all get along all that well together. So they don't hang around together a lot.
And as Gail just mentioned, we just saw the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook. And last night we heard Donald Trump mention Tim Cook, saying that Apple is promising to build some new businesses and make investments in America. Talking about how much has changed. He mentioned other companies who are investing, in his words, tens of billions of dollars. Donald Trump trying to make the case last night to his supporters, the Capital One Arena, in his words, that he's gotten more done than, in his words, Joe Biden has gotten done in 4 months. You can see already trying to draw that contest, even on the day before inauguration, which is usually a lot of glad handing and pleasantries. There you see the incoming, in the white coat there, that's Miriam Adelson, who's standing, strong supporter, talking to John Paulson, the Palm Beach billionaire and noted hedge fund, private equity individual who was involved for many years and is close friends with the president, was going to be part of the president's cabinet, but also a supporter here. And everyone is gathered, including the former presidents, as we saw them come in. And what we're expecting just shortly is the Chief Justice will be announced. John Roberts says he will be the one swearing in Donald Trump. And then we will see Jill Biden, and we will see Melania Trump and Usha Vance. And here we go.
I think the one issue that we really face is that the right wing is organized from the top down, and the left wing has to be organized from the bottom up.
Brett Kavanaugh will be issuing the oath of office to J.D. Vance.
There's no way to do that under our current system because of the way that inventions like social media have defeated
one of these
our
justices, Justice
dopamine
Ketanji Brown
receptors.
Jackson,
And there's
put
just
into
enough
office
treats
by
and
Joe
comforts
Biden,
and
but
distractions
3 of these justices
that people are not
were
quite
appointed by and confirmed by the Senate under Donald Trump, and has remarkably changed the landscape of the Supreme Court. Want to bring in Chief Washington correspondent
and I don't
Major
think
Garrett.
the left, and if you want
Major
me to make my true and honest prediction, I think the left in America can only rise in the context of another economic crash. I don't know when the economic crash is going to happen, but I know that it's inevitable under capitalism. If you're asking me when I really think the left is going to have another true shot in America, it's during the next economic recession or crash. I don't know when. When millions upon millions of people are actually facing total destitution and the government stands idly by like it did in the fucking Great Depression, then we will have a shot at grabbing people's attention. But right now, there's just enough treats, there's just enough distractions, there's just enough division, there's just enough dopamine being handed out that people are not quite ready to risk it all for a better future. They're clinging on to whatever fucking self-justifications they have for not acting. It will end up like Occupy Wall Street? Absolutely not. We know far better now. And I can tell you right now that anarchism will never again be supported by me or anyone who has a fucking clue as a method of organizing. We've seen the profound failure of decentralized flat organizing in the last 20 years. It profoundly doesn't work. It just point blank does not work. It has to be a party-based vanguard model. That's the only thing that ever has worked and the only thing that will ever work. And we're going to do it. But as I said before, you can't force things. Until this economic system, till this political system is fully discredited by another crash, people are just comfortable enough not to seek revolution. Why? Why would you? I mean, why did Luigi shoot that healthcare CEO? Luigi shot that healthcare CEO because he was in pain. It's a very animalistic explanation, but it's a true explanation. Is that his pain was so hard, so debilitating, and the discomfort was so debilitating that he couldn't just sit there anymore, waiting for to be rescued. He had to lash out, and that's what fed his aggression. That's what fed his rage. It was enough. He was able to take that physical, animalistic pain, and through rationalization, through thought, find a target. And he was willing to basically that was basically an elaborate suicide because he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. And until more Americans feel that, we're just comfortable enough.
But it's his family he relies upon.
What do you mean Luigi is innocent?
Ivanka Trump.
I'm not even, by the way, I'm not saying violence is good. I'm just explaining it from the perspective of understanding how human beings act. They don't tend to take risky, aggressive moves when they're comfortable. That's assuming he did it, which we don't know because I wasn't there and I haven't reviewed the evidence. He's probably innocent.
It's very difficult for us to let new people in. And that seems to have been the case, although Ivanka Trump has made it clear she doesn't intend to engage this particular administration. Do you think that's true?
She will remain an informal advisor to President-elect Trump, but will not join the White House staff.
She will not have a formal role.
I think there's a lot of the informal happening with this term. I know Jared Kushner, son-in-law, husband of Ivanka Trump, has been a conduit for a lot of the outreach to the Middle East. He is now invested in heavily by some of the Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia and the others. He's staying on the outside while continuing those business interests, but a conduit to the Trump team, particularly on issues of geopolitics.
So much of what we are witnessing today is this peaceful transfer of power, a lot of pomp and circumstance and ceremony, but a lot of important things also happening today. And I want to ask Senator Blunt about that because there are reports that Pentagon officials do not know who will run the government's largest agency, the Defense Department. Donald Trump has not signaled. So what does that mean?
Well, I think the time between now and the time that the defense secretary is confirmed, whoever that turns out to be, it's really important to know, and surely those signals will come right away. The president would understand that you've got to have a chain of command, and I think he'll follow up on that.
We've heard reports about other agencies, about people that would be leading them. Those names have been made public. Is it notable that we haven't heard who should be leading the Defense Department?
I don't know that it's notable. I do think it's extraordinary how deeply they have gone into these agencies, the various, not just the service secretaries, but their undersecretaries.
Bro, imagine that Romania canceled the elections due to interference. The CIA did that, man. The CIA canceled those elections to steal them from the Romanian people because the Romanian people didn't want a CIA fucking anti-Russian warmonger as president. And so their election was disregarded. It's called a CIA fucking A. Well, I can't believe you're using the Romanian theft as a good model. Pathetic.
Itself. But I think
and by the way, I don't give a shit about Romania. I don't give a shit about Georgia. I don't give a shit about Ukraine, Latvia, or Lithuania, or Estonia. And neither should you. It's fucking insane. America is a dysfunctional shithole where Americans, hundreds of thousands of Americans sleep out on the streets. We have the worst infant mortality in the fucking Western world. We have dirty, polluted air. Climate change is raging out of control. And you're telling me I need to be fucking intervening in the Romanian election? Like, what are you talking about?
This is Marilyn Quayle and the Honorable Michael Pence.
What is going on? It's called Langley, Virginia.
And thus begins the announcement of the former vice presidents. We should note that we have learned that the entire Biden press staff has officially left the building, that Karine Jean-Pierre was the last to leave.
Thank fucking
Andrew
God.
Jackson's portrait is already back up on the wall.
I can't believe Mike Pence is there. What an unbelievable
Biden press
cuck.
staffer tells CBS News that the Reagan rug, which is the rug that Reagan used and Trump previously used, is back. They had to disassemble the Resolute desk to switch out the rugs.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 42nd President of the United States, the Honorable William J. Clinton, accompanied by the Honorable Hillary Rodham Clinton.
God, if you're feeling angry today, just remember, Hillary Clinton will never be president of the United States. I repeat, Hillary Clinton will never be president of the United States. One more time, Hillary Clinton will never be president of the United States. Man, I'm just feeling better. Wow. I just feel so much, wow. I got a huge smile on my face all of a sudden. Man, that's the sugar that I needed for the medicine to go down. At least Hillary won the popular vote. I know. How like Kamala Harris.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 43rd President of the United States, the Honorable George W. Bush, accompanied by Mrs. Laura Bush.
Have you guys, have you ever heard of, there's a boomer, writer called Tom Clancy. He's kind of like the ultimate imperialist pop, author. But he had one book called Debt of Honor. And spoilers for Debt of Honor, but there was this, at the end of, it shows a war between America and Japan. And, written in 1994. But at the end of Debt of Honor,
ladies and gentlemen, the 44th President of the United
Japanese
States,
airlines
the Honorable
captain flies
Barack
a 747
H. Obama.
directly into the Capitol building, I think during a State of the Union speech. And, you know, apropos of nothing, I just wanted to say it's a pretty interesting book. An embittered Japan Airlines pilot driven mad by the deaths of his son and brother during the conflict flies his Boeing 747 directly into the U.S. Capitol during a special joint session of Congress. The president, as well as nearly the entire Congress, the Supreme Court, and many other members of the federal government are all killed in the attack. And
ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Justice of the United States, the Honorable John G. Roberts Jr., and the Associate Justices of the Supreme Court of the United States.
Sorry about that, chat. I don't give a fuck about these dipshits. Sorry about that. I'll do this turn around here. So anyway, Debt of Honor, pretty interesting hypothetical book. Highly recommend. You know, if you're into kind of right-wing fiction. Tom Clancy is the most successful right-wing creative author of all time. All this music is provided by taxpayers. Sorry about the audio issues, chat. I'll fix it in the future. I'll mute next time I talk. Or turn it down.
And we're waiting now for the introduction of the president and president-elect. And as we can see, Dr. Biden entering with the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff.
Tiffany Trump and Barron Trump.
and we're looking at members of the first family. And there you have.
I'm sorry. I should have given you more content, more commentary, but like, I want you to look and see how. So this is Cory Booker. He's standing next to Tom Cotton, who famously said to use the military against people protesting for George Floyd. There's a very specific thing that I think all of you need to hear.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all.
Told you, you can't go vote for Bernie. It's too risky, guys. It's too risky. It's too risky. Look at this fucking rapist here who sexually molested a 20-year-old fucking intern. Can you imagine hiring some intern and then shoving a fucking stogie up her pussy in the middle of the Oval Office? And you have the biggest centrist, corporatist radfems standing right next to him and pretending like it's okay for the president to sexually exploit basically a teenager in the Oval Office. Look at these fucking scumbags.
Of a border czar and Tom Homan, also working with Stephen Miller, who will be the architect within the Trump administration of upcoming immigration policy. So she will be in a key position.
I thought that was a very diplomatic way to phrase it, Margaret, that the book she written may have gotten in the way of that. It was the anecdote that she told about killing her dog, and she detailed it. It's the type of thing that no one would have known about it had she not, and I think people were surprised that she included that little nugget.
And then a goat, and she also said that she met the leader of North Korea, and then said somebody else put that in her book that she wrote and had to pull it back from publication. We talked to her about it at the time.
Yeah, but, we did too. So I think you're correct to say that book may have derailed things a bit for her.
But she will lead a very powerful agency, the Department of Homeland Security, and I want to bring in Nancy Cordes. She is in Emancipation Hall. Nancy.
Nora, it's so fascinating to see who's in that room, try to read their body language, but the room itself is so majestic, which is why it was chosen.
Listen to our media. Listen to the corporate media scum. Listen to the corporate media scum.
That ancient Roman temple, and people have probably been seeing as they take wide shots these enormous paintings that are placed around the rotunda. Revolutionary scenes like the signing of the Declaration of Independence, General George Washington resigning his military commission, which was such a pivotal moment in U.S. history. And there are also some scenes of early exploration, notably the landing of Columbus and the baptism of Pocahontas. Interestingly, Gail was just talking about people of color in the room. Well, Pocahontas is a woman of color, of course. She was represented 3 times in the art within the Capitol Rotunda, actually the second most of anyone other than George Washington.
Nancy Cordes, thank you. We are still waiting for the introduction of Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and President-elect Donald Trump to be brought into the rotunda. Senator Blunt, it looks like we're running maybe 20 minutes behind schedule. Does that matter?
Yes.
Yes. In the effort of efficiency, we've got to get the president sworn in right at noontime, don't we?
That's a tradition. I'm not sure that the world would end if that didn't happen. That's a tradition, and you always try to get there. I would say of the in the rotunda, my favorite of all those pictures, because of the story it tells, is George Washington leaving, resigning, going back home. Maybe one of the 2 or 3 pivotal.
Cincinnatus, guys, Cincinnatus. My favorite thing is that George Washington was sterile. It's like one of those things that I really love.
Because to your earlier question, Gail, about what checks a president.
The only reason he didn't try to become a king is because he had no issue. You know, he couldn't put out any babies. And then his doctors killed him from like a cold. That's pretty fucking awesome.
Maybe the second time the great pull of Mount Vernon is when George Washington decides not to be president more than 2 terms.
That's right.
Both pivotal moments, I think.
Who gives a shit, you fucking boomer?
You see
Can
Usha
you imagine
Vance
worshiping
there,
the
wife
founding
of
fathers
Vice
like they're some sort of like
President-elect
Superman? The
J.D.
guy was a
Vance,
fucking slave
who is a
raper
key
who
counselor
had
to
a
him.
mouthful of teeth pulled from the mouths of
And,
slaves
future First Lady
because he
of
lost his teeth
America,
eating too much
Melania
sweets before
Trump.
they invented toothpaste.
Wearing an Air
All right, like who
Jarvis
gives a
hat, they
fuck?
said.
He was
That's
dumb
a-
as
what do
fucking
you call it?
dirt. He was
The designer's
tactically
Eric
and strategically
Jarvis,
a
they
poor
said.
general, bailed out by the
very
Spanish and
elegant.
French crown. Let's be honest. Okay, let's be honest about George fucking Washington, you dumb pieces of fucking shit. He was a dumbass.
It is just now.
Notice that they don't talk to you about
11:30,
George
so
Washington's
there are 30
writings
minutes
because he was dumb.
to see his team.
What do they do, team, for
You know
the
what
next
George
half hour?
Washington's greatest victory is? This is legitimately true. George Washington's greatest victory is sailing across the Delaware in winter on Christmas and attacking a bunch of soldiers who were drunk from Christmas festivities. Wow, man, what an amazing general. He snuck up on people and did a surprise attack on Christmas. What a hero. Wow, what a tactical fucking genius. Who gives a fucking shit? He's basically the Elon Musk. That's who he was. He was just the richest man in America. He was a fucking loser.
The incoming president, it's a whirlwind of logistical precision to move one in and one out in the short period of time that this is taking place.
I can hear you calling me. You are calling me to pay tribute to thee.
This is the culture of fascism right here. Prepare yourself.
From your mountains grand and all through this land, you are beautiful to me. Oh, America, you're calling. Oh, I can hear you calling me. You are calling me. To pay to thee, to thee, oh, I will be.
Matt Christman.
And we will be as one.
Oh, this is so annoying. This is the stupidest day in American history, a record that will be broken by every subsequent day in American history. Today is going to be tough to top. Patience. Honestly, I can't even improve on it. I can't even improve on it. There's really nothing to say. I mean, he's a king. How long is this fucking song? It never ends. That brings me to another banger tweet. I will repeat what I said before. Kamala Harris is not Obama. She is a total charisma void, boring, stale, a PR-trained robotic sloganeering machine. There is no there. Libs manufacturing a personality cult around her will only end in unmitigated disaster in 2024. She is so terrible as a politician, she had to drop out of the primary before a single vote was cast. But establishment Democrats decided to handpick her and force her into the role of their savior, just like they tried to do with Hillary. They never learn. I mean, the squirrel is completely and utterly vindicated once again. I mean, like, this is the analysis. This is October 7th, 2020. And she nailed it completely correct in every single detail. The squirrel is right. One of the problems with being kind of a left-winger, and this is something that a lot of you are going to run into in your lives as left-wingers, so I'm just going to tell you something. It's that you get it right early, every single time, consistently. You're always predicting things that are going to happen. You're always getting things right. When you're wrong, it's because events happen that change the underlying materialist analysis. But fundamentally, your materialist analysis, your cognitive, like, it's just like having that framework of dialectical materialism explains so much around you, and you will continually get things right, and people will go, well, you got that right, but you're wrong about this. Like, you're gonna find that being right about everything or most things doesn't give you any like special influence over others. People don't actually care about what's right, and this is something that's gonna drive you insane until you understand that we were all playing a social game. Okay, this is like Evita. This is like what the fuck is this? This is like the wife of fucking Franco.
Packed in as they have put more than 600 people inside the Capitol Rotunda, including many of the lawmakers and dignitaries.
Escorting the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States. Ranking member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies.
Look at this. This is the wife of Franco. Like, what is this?
House
Like, look at
Democratic
this.
Leader, the Honorable
She's
Hakeem
literally
Jeffries,
stealing Franco,
and
the
Senate Majority
fascist
Secretary, the Honorable
dictator,
Robert Duncan.
Generalissimo of Spain. What is this fit?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Devi Harris.
Where his career was forged. The U.S. Capitol led to the U.S. presidency. But in a way, as Senator Blunt knows, President Biden has always thought about the Capitol, in a sense, as home.
Wrapping up nearly 5 decades of public service and a standing ovation there for the President of the United States as the crowd waits.
Escorting the Vice President-elect, the Executive Director for the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Mr. Michael Wagner, Senate Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, Jason Bell, and House Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Sean Keating.
I bet you if I looked up Sean Keating, he's like related to the Keating
Vice President-elect to be sworn in first.
Zyron Blue, thank you for the tier 1. COVID is spreading at higher rates right now than during the original pandemic.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President-elect of the United States, the Honorable J.D.
Come on, man.
Vance.
And Robert, a remarkable moment for J.D. Vance, a noted author who was well regarded by a number of Democrats, who then made his way into the United States Senate and became very close with the Trump family, and now is the future vice president of the United States.
A remarkable and rapid political ascent for this 40-year-old man from Ohio. Went to Yale Law School, wrote about his tough upbringing in Southern Ohio. Hillbilly Elegy becomes a runaway bestseller.
He's just one of those people who hates where he comes from, sociopath.
Ron Howard makes a movie out of it.
Makes a movie out of it. And he's originally a critic of President.
What's really funny with J.D. Vance, I'm going to pause it here, is like he basically got started. The reason why he's famous is because he went to liberals and said Donald Trump is bad, right? Like he got like Hillbilly Elegy wasn't sold to right wingers; it was sold to liberals. You know, he made his tour on the like left wing MSNBC type, not left wing, centrist Democrat circuit, and then he called Trump America's Hitler. He is a soulless, opportunist automaton, which is exactly why he's in the position he's in. Because every single person in the mainstream media is exactly the same way. They would kill their own mother for a chance at getting a half promotion. All right. So they look at J.D. Vance and they think, that's me.
Came perhaps his biggest ally.
Ceremonies. Elizabeth Farah, House Sergeant at Arms, the Honorable William P. McFarland, Senate Sergeant at Arms and Doorkeeper, the Honorable Jennifer A. Hemingway, Senate Majority Leader, the Honorable John Thune, and the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, House Majority Leader, the Honorable Steve Scalise, Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson, Senate Democratic Leader, the Honorable Charles E. Schumer, Ranking Member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, and Chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Amy Klobuchar, chat. She wanted to get her name on another document. This is the level of like pathetic, grandiose narcissism. And there are some centrists who think this is like a sign she's a good politician, right? She renamed 20 post offices. What have you ever done, Mike?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
Wait, Joe Biden signed a pardon of his entire family? He just published a full pardon of his entire family? Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., to whom the president shall come, greeting that I, Joseph R. Biden, President of the United States, pursued by powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, have granted unto James B. Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, and Francis W. Biden,
our chief White House correspondent,
a full and unconditional pardon for any nonviolent offenses against the United States which they may be committed or taken part in during the period from 1 January 2014 to the date of this pardon. In testimony whereof I have hereunto signed my name and caused the seal of the Department of Justice to be affixed. Done at the city of Washington this 19th day of January in the year of our Lord 2025 and of the independence of the United States the 249th. This motherfucker's family are criminals, and he just gave them blanket pardons for any crimes they committed that were not violent offenses for a period of 11 years. Yeah, guys, he's not the Biden crime family at all.
Reminder that despite the pleasantries in the ceremony on both sides,
let me just say this, chat. If you're a person and you think Joe Biden was a good president, I know this is going to be hard to hear, but you're delusional and you're in some sort of like media bubble. You're like, the vast majority of Americans don't agree with you. He's leading office with a 33% approval rating. You are delusional. Housing prices are at an all-time high, highest since World War II. Record homelessness. He did a genocide in Gaza for over a year. He tried to fascistically ban TikTok because people were criticizing Israel on it. And he's just been humiliated by Donald Trump, who brokered a ceasefire in Gaza and unbanned TikTok in one day. He got basically nothing he ran on done. And the few that he did get done was giving money to corporations tax subsidies to corporations to build factories where they underpay their non-union workers. He was a fucking loser. The world is on fire. Los Angeles, California is literally on fire. He did nothing to mitigate climate change. We have an all-time high of oil production in this country right as we stare into the abyss. He was a fucking failure. His biggest achievement was putting 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles because America's industry can't compete, and a 50% tariff on solar panels so that you can't afford green energy on your home. That could have freed you from utility costs for the rest of your fucking life. Joe Biden made that 50% more expensive. You know what he doesn't tariff? Dangerous, cheap crap at Walmart. He was a loser. He was a failure in every measurable way. Public option doesn't exist. PRO Act didn't pass. Roe v. Wade overturned without a bill. Equality Act gone. They threw trans people under the bus. He deported more people than Donald Trump. He tried to pass Donald Trump's immigration law. And the final exclamation point is him this morning saying to Donald Trump as he pulled up in the limo, "Welcome home." If you think Joe Biden was a good president, you are fantastically out of touch with the American people. You need to get a new informational diet. I don't know what to do for you, but he was a bad president. And so was Barack Obama. And the moment you can accept that is the moment you can have some enlightenment so that we might actually save this country from the devastating catastrophe that is coming.
And defend it. It is the moment when they become, as we all should be, the guardians of our country. Through war and peace, through adversity and prosperity, we hold this inauguration every 4 years. And today it falls on Martin Luther King Day. A further reminder that we must strive to uphold the values enshrined in our Constitution, the freedoms, the liberties, and, as is inscribed on the entrance of the United States Supreme Court, equal justice under law.
But they don't. They don't.
What makes this moment more than a passing ceremony?
What makes this pathetic is that the Republicans have seized the Supreme Court through procedural shenanigans to put 3 of the people on the Supreme Court were literally at the Brooks Brothers riot, blocking the count of the election in Florida, an election that Al Gore won, and the Democratic cucks are saying that they're unbiased. 3 of them helped steal the 2000 election, and these fucking loser cucks are saying they're unbiased? What is going on here? Because to them, it doesn't matter if the system is broken. They want to control the proles. They want to control you. They want you to think things are fair, even if they know they're not, because ultimately they're in the same club and you ain't.
An obligation to stand our ground when we must and find common ground when we can. With everything swirling around us, the hot mess of division, it is on all of us, to quote an incredible songwriter who just happened to be born in my state, to ensure that our nation's democracy is our shelter from the storm. There's a reason this ceremony takes place at the Capitol. In other countries, it might be in a presidential palace or a gilded executive office building. Here it is traditionally held at the Capitol, the People's House. It is a fitting reminder of the system of checks and balances that is the very foundation of our government. 3 equal branches of government. That is how, for nearly 250 years, our great American experiment, grounded in the rule of law, has endured. So, as we inaugurate a new president and vice president, let us remember that the power of those in this room comes from the people. The construction workers who build our country, the teachers and healthcare workers who nurture us, the troops defending our freedoms, and yes, the firefighters in Los Angeles putting themselves on the line for us.
You can tell what somebody appreciates by what they send their children to do.
Our democracy's strength and
how many of them are sending their children to become firefighters in Los Angeles, do you think?
May God bless our nation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Endurance through the years is the ultimate test. To persevere through time is the truest measure of an idea, an institution, and a nation. Our founders wrote the Constitution so that America could withstand all the twists and turns of time. They wrote it to guide us and to preserve forever our right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Charlatanistic
But as much as the truths and principles enshrined in our Constitution remain the same, our democracy promises the American people the power to change, to chart their own destiny. That's the beauty. That is the importance of democracy. It allows the endurance, the permanence of a nation through change. It allows nations like our United States both to avoid the obstacles and to seize the opportunities God has placed before us, all while staying true to our founding principles. Today is our country's 60th inauguration ceremony. Like all the others before it, it is a celebration of our right to set our uniquely American course. The past several years have been trying at times for many, many Americans, and also for the nations of the free world that we humbly strive to lead. In November, Americans chose again to steer this nation towards greatness, the secure, safe, and prosperous future that our founders envisioned for all of us. And today, we celebrate not only their decision to do so, but also the simple right and wisdom of a free people to make their own choice so that their nation might endure. And now, allow me to welcome Archbishop Timothy Dolan and Reverend Franklin Graham, who will deliver our invocation. Please rise.
Be still and know that I am God, supreme among the nations, supreme on the earth. Let us
Cardinal
pray.
Dolan.
Remembering
General
George Washington on his knees at Valley Forge, recalling Abraham Lincoln at his second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Remembering General George Patton's instructions to his soldiers as they began the Battle of the Bulge 8 decades ago. Pray. Pray when fighting. Pray alone. Pray with others. Pray by night. Pray by day. Observing the birthday of the Reverend Martin Luther King, who warned, without God, our efforts turn to ashes. We, blessed citizens of this one nation under God, humbled by our claim that in God we trust, gather indeed this inauguration day to pray for our President Donald J. Trump, his family, his advisors, his cabinet, his aspirations, his vice president, for the Lord's blessings upon Joseph Biden, for our men and women in uniform, for each other whose hopes are stoked this new year, this inauguration day.
This is who they picked.
We cannot err in relying upon that
this
prayer
is who they
from the
picked
Bible.
to do the benediction, chat. Somebody who was really instrumental in paying money to pedophile priests, but then hiding church funds from being paid to victims of pedophile priests.
Not with him, he shall be held in no esteem. Send wisdom from heavens that she may be with him, that he may know your designs. Please, God, bless America. Please, mend her every flaw. You are the God in whom we trust, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Mr. President, the last 4 years, there are times I'm sure you thought it was pretty dark. But look what God has done. We praise him and give him glory. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, thou hast said, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. As the prophet Daniel prayed, blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. He changes the
Kamala
times
Harris
and the
was
seasons.
raised by a
He removes kings.
Marxist
He raises
professor
up kings.
and
He
an
gives
Indian
wisdom to the
immigrant
wise and knowledge to those who have
there is
understanding.
zero Christianity in her background. And she's closing her
As
eyes
President
like
Donald
she's
J.
praying.
Trump takes the oath of office once again,
Because as an
we
adult
come to say
politician, she
thank you,
converted to
O
one of
Lord
the
our
churches
God.
in her
Father, when Donald Trump's
constituency.
enemies thought he was down and out,
Without a doubt, one of the most fraudulent personalities I've ever seen.
raise him up with strength and power by your mighty hand. We pray for President Trump that you'll watch over, protect, guide, direct him. Give him your
Bernie Sanders
wisdom
is the
from
best.
your throne on high. We ask that you would bless him and that our nation would be blessed through him. We also ask that you would bless and protect Melania as First Lady. We thank you for the beauty, the warmth, and grace that she shows not only to this nation, but to the whole world. We thank you for Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and his wife Usha and their young family. May he be a strength to President Trump, to stand beside him, to hold up his arms like Aaron held up the arms of Moses in the midst of battle. The prophet Samuel reminded the people, it was you that brought them up from the land of Egypt. And he said, now stand still, that I may reason with you before the Lord. So, Father, we take this moment to stand still, to remember the great things that you have done for this nation. Thank you for the protection, the bounty, the freedoms that we so enjoy. We remember to keep our eyes fixed on you, and may our hearts be inclined to your voice. We know that America can never be great again if we turn our backs on you. We ask for your help, and we pray all of this in the name of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, your Son, my Savior, and our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Justice Kavanaugh to administer the Vice Presidential Oath of Office.
Why are they like ushering? Oh, okay, it's the kids of. Okay, it's the kids of J.D. Vance. I was like, what the? They're ushering in kids in the middle of this.
Vance's and Usha
Why did they
Vance's
have him
young
out there
children
before? What the fuck?
that are joining for the swearing in, along with his mother there in red.
We've got the diamond encrusted earrings.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith.
That I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation.
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office.
the duties of the office
On which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Kamala Harris is now unemployed. Everybody applaud for Kamala Harris is now unemployed.
And we have a new Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance,
I suggest that
sworn
Kamala
in
Harris
by
file for
Supreme Court Justice
unemployment
Brett
benefits
Kavanaugh.
immediately.
What we should note is that the second lady, Usha Vance, actually clerked for Brett Kavanaugh when he was a judge at the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Usha also clerked for Chief Justice John Roberts when he was at the Supreme Court. She is a noted lawyer herself.
Presidential oath of office.
And they are slowly ushering their young children out the door, along with J.D. Vance's mother, as it is just 12:01, the time when the new president is supposed to be sworn in. Now the Chief Justice.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Look at how Biden is smiling. Look at how Kamala's smiling. They're so proud. They're so proud at Donald Trump. And then we have the 21-gun salute.
And now we have the 47th president of the United States, President Donald Trump, only the second president in history to serve non-consecutive terms, sworn in on the Bible given to him by his mother and the Lincoln Bible. Congratulated
Guys, he's
by his
Hitler.
family.
Guys, he's Hitler. That's why they love him. And one of the things to keep in mind isn't that, you know, I guess we haven't a couple of the what everybody was afraid of, Donald Trump for 2 terms, has now happened. And the centrist Democratic Party has been completely discredited. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, do you believe in anything? Do you believe in anything at all? If you do believe in something, then you need to fight tooth and nail to rip the guts out of the Democratic Party, because they are completely incapable of any kind of resistance, any kind of opposition, any type of organization. They're held in contempt by the American people. A guy ran as an independent, Osborne is his name, in Nebraska, and he outperformed Kamala Harris by like 17 points because he ran as an independent. People hate the Democratic Party. It's at 33% approval rating according to a poll that just came out. 33% of people approve of the Democratic Party. That's an all-time low. It's dead, and it's time that we kill it. And we need to build something that actually believes in shit and is fighting for shit. Anybody telling you that the best move is to bow down and kiss the ring and compromise and work across the aisle, those are people that are dedicated to preserving their own position. And they care not at all about you or me, this country, the planet, the future. Pathetic fucking losers. This is the U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club? Okay. Is women in the military. I see DEI. We need to get rid of them all. This is very gay. They're singing a song. Why aren't they fighting, practicing fighting? The American kind of like a worship of the military is kind of, at this point, what can you even say? Mike, they're fighting for your freedom in Israel.
And that was the Battle Hymn of the Republic by the United States Naval Academy Glee Club. Just a bit of history here. For over 138 years, this song has been a fixture of patriotic programs, still sung in schools and churches across the nation. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord, a poem written by a woman.
For abolition and fighting against slavery. It's funny how all this historical shit, who gives a fuck? Like, learning history is just a way of causing psychic damage. Because all history does is repeat itself, and the same dumbass pieces of shit that fucked it up the first time are reincarnated to say the same exact dumbass shit they said the first time around. And if you look at history and you read a book, you realize these people are fucking scum. And this is what has radicalized me into more of a revolutionary Marxist. It's because I don't believe in the ability to persuade liberals because they don't listen to arguments and they don't believe in anything. It's purely a socially oriented game. So the only way to change things is to completely restructure the social environment. And you know what happens to all those liberals? All the people who are liberals sucking off Joe Biden would be, if they were in China, they would be Communist Party members. They don't believe in anything. They are just socially oriented scum. So it's our job to build a structure that they can socially orient themselves to.
Thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end.
If the Democrats had used the Justice Department at all, as he describes, he would have been in prison.
Our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free.
No shot. No. In fact, I guarantee none of the above will occur, because the idea of just cutting taxes on really wealthy people, and this is a wealthy generation who doesn't believe this isn't fucking Andrew Carnegie building fucking public hospitals and museums everywhere. This is, you know, these are billionaires that are going around building public parks and endowing fucking scholarships and building up institutions of society. These are billionaires that take that money and then invest in their biggest mega yacht. You know, like, this is the reality of what we're going to see. America's going to be hollowed out. Every grifter is going to have the opportunity to steal your fucking money, and nothing's going to be done about it.
America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people.
And they're going to do that by
North
privatizing.
Carolina, been treated so badly.
You know, sometimes people, let me pause this for a second. Sometimes people say to me, like, Mike, you don't attack Trump enough, right? And it goes without saying that Donald Trump is fucking terrible. Are you stupid? Like, do you need me to explain that Donald Trump is a fraud? Like, the guy went bankrupt with casinos, okay? Who gives a fuck? All right, we're going to try not to pause anymore during... I'll try to keep my comments. I'll weave them in.
And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn. From weeks ago, without even a token of defense, they're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly.
By the way, notice how he's talking about the fires, addressing directly material conditions.
Our recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
America's decline is going to accelerate.
Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government.
Loyalty to him.
Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
I don't know what is worse, the idea that he believes it or that he doesn't. I actually don't know which is worse. The delusional. Also, I will say this about Donald Trump. I mean, Joe Biden couldn't say this speech. He couldn't do it. Like, Joe Biden is completely demented and old and totally decrepit. And the centrist Democratic Party lied to all of us.
That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural,
DEI.
And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of
Kamala
people.
Harris got owned.
To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you.
I think he should insult Biden and Harris more.
National unity.
I think what I would say is it was pretty easy, honestly. Hillary Clinton was a much tougher opponent. Sorry, Kamala.
Is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that.
This man never believed in God his entire life. What's your favorite book in the Bible?
Today I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense.
The restoration of common sense?
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
Democrats are going to help. Bernie Sanders never stands. In case you didn't know, Chad, I'll point out Bernie when we get the other angle again.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices.
By the way, he's right about record inflation. It was higher than it was even in the 70s. He's actually right about that.
The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
Right in as California is burning down, we're going to do even more climate destroying fossil fuel energy that's also expensive. That shit crazy, man.
America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it.
Do you know what China has that we don't have? All the lithium processing.
We will bring prices down.
All the rare earth metals.
Fill our strategic reserve.
Who do you think is going to win? The oil and gas producing oligarchic United States or the techno-socialist country developing fusion nuclear power? Who do you think is going to win? Just think about that for a second.
Reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers.
More giant SUVs for people to hit kids with.
In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
Donald Trump basically was given special treatment and not prosecuted
and we are going
because
to bring
he was a politician.
Law and order back to our cities.
It's the complete opposite of what he's saying.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life.
In other words, make it illegal to discuss racism, bigotry, or any other
topic. We will forge
a
society that is colorblind and merit-based.
Merit-based. Donald Trump, President of the United States. Multiple failed corporations and scam artists.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Brianna Wu is cheering right now.
This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay.
That means every right-wing fucking lunatic is about to get a $250,000 to $500,000 check. And go back into the military.
And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies.
By the way, chat, this is why we're going to be defeated, because having cultural, like, people come from all sorts of different cultures and backgrounds in America. And if you make it illegal to understand how to lead those men, you know what you get? Bragging, insubordination, failure, lack of cohesion. That's why they do that shit.
Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen.
What he means by that is spend more money on
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
First of all, it's called Denali because that's what the people who lived on it called it. Alaska is the one who changed the name. It wasn't like America made them do that.
President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal. which has foolishly been given to
Did he read
the
a
country
book
of
on
Panama
McKinley
after the United States.
and Teddy Roosevelt or something?
The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
So that's a aggressive, like there's no, by the way, there's no justification for this. This is just a war of aggression. This is absolutely a war of aggression. That's it. He's saying that he wants to attack a independent sovereign country because they have a strategically important canal and he wants to control it. That's it. This is just blatantly a war of aggression, which peaceful dove Donald, way to go by not doing a ceasefire, Biden and Kamala. You let Donald Trump posture as a peaceful dove, and now he's threatening to invade Panama, which he probably won't even have to do because Panama is not able to fight the U.S. So they will probably just hand it back under threat of like coercion.
Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
Mars. Do you remember when like Democrats would be like, "Ooh, don't make fun
of
the
lifeblood of a great
Do you remember
nation.
that?
And right now our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback, but as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We are going to win like never before. Thank you.
There's not much to say to that pablum. It doesn't mean anything. It's total bullshit. An unleashed America is actually probably good. And I want to say it this way because the rest of the world is going to very quickly realize that they either are going to do imperialism with us or they need to stand up and resist us. If you're a European right now and you're watching this, you need to understand that staying in NATO is an existential threat to your fucking lives. Go look and see what they're doing to the Ukrainians. The United States has tried to force them to draft every man over 18 forcibly to send them into trenches to die to fucking drones and artillery. And that the country of Ukraine has basically been destroyed. That's what they have in mind for you too. You are cannon fodder, and the United States only gives a shit about itself. Leave NATO immediately and start supporting campaigns and politicians that want to leave NATO. You need to form your own defensive bloc, and you need to counterbalance the United States. If you get it, if you walk along with us, we're going to use you just like we used the Kurds, just like we've used countless allies throughout history, and we will abandon you just like we abandoned the South Vietnamese, just like we abandoned the Afghans, just like we abandoned the Iraqis, just like we abandoned ally after ally. As soon as it's not convenient for us, you'll go in the fucking heap, and you're no better. We don't care about you.
Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The inaugural address of the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. It was billed as an optimistic and hopeful address. Donald Trump said he wants to be a peacemaker and a unifier, promising to put America first and to usher in a revolution of common sense. In his words, you just heard him say, our golden age has just begun. But he then plunged into a list of grievances, said from this moment on, America's decline is over. We're going to dig into the details of this speech. But I think first we want to hear from Carrie Underwood, who is set to deliver America the Beautiful. And then we'll talk about some of the details that President Donald Trump just outlined.
This is something you need to understand. The capitalists and the rich are going
describing a liberation day.
They're going to bend down and kiss the ring.
Saying, too, that they will declare a crisis on the southern border, and that, in his words, we will be a rich nation again.
They just want to stay powerful and wealthy. They don't give a shit
Donald
about
Trump
anything.
Also using
Everything
an
was
inaugural
virtue
address
signaling
to
and
say
bullshit.
there are only two genders, male and female. Also talking about full back pay for those who refuse the COVID vaccine. It sounds like they're just trying to get the music ready to hear from Carrie Underwood. This remarkable moment where you see 5 presidents of the United States in one room. It was more like a State of the Union than an inaugural address in many ways, and that's in part because of the location inside the Capitol Rotunda, as opposed to out on that inaugural platform. And so people stood and applauded. That's not something we usually see in an inaugural address. But it was notable that none of the former presidents stood up and applauded throughout his remarks, including the former Republican president, George W. Bush. That's what I was just going to say, yes.
Either party.
Nora, it was interesting to hear the now president say, I was saved by God to make America great, talking about that attempt on his life back in July. So he believes he doesn't just have a political mandate, he believes he has some mandate from the divine in seeing out the next 4 years.
And John Dickerson, you've looked at so many of these inaugural addresses. Donald Trump has always had a different style. His last one was described as dark. How would you describe this one?
Well, as you noted, I mean, I guess let's listen.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good.
Singing a song written by a socialist. Really amazing.
From sea to shining sea.
Carrie Underwood there asking the crowd to join her. She said, you know the words. It's even there's going to be a new Department of Government Efficiency. They need to work on the music, I guess, first of all. The backup music was not there for there. But really a remarkable
Senator Fisher will now introduce the
performance.
benediction clergy.
And as we wait for the benediction here from Senator Fisher.
I now call on Rabbi Ari Berman, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, and Reverend Frank Mund to provide prayers of benediction.
Like, the woman who wrote that literally left the Republican Party because they didn't want to join the League of Nations. Just so you know.
Let us pray. Almighty God, your prophet Jeremiah walked the streets of Jerusalem and blessed its inhabitants with the Hebrew words, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach BaHashem. Blessed is the one who trusts in God. Thousands of years later, this great nation, which adopted these words as its motto, "In God we trust," stands at a moment of historic opportunity. Americans are searching for meaning. Our merciful Father, help us rise to meet this moment. Bless President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance with the strength and courage to choose the right and the good. Unite us around our foundational biblical values of life and liberty, of service and sacrifice, and especially of faith and morality, which George Washington called the indispensable supports of American prosperity. Guide our schools and college campuses, which have been experiencing such unrest, to inspire the next generation, to pair progress with purpose, knowledge with wisdom, and truth with virtue. Hear the cry of the hostages, both American and Israeli, whose pain our president so acutely feels. We are so thankful for the 3 young women who yesterday returned home, and pray that the next 4 years brings peace to Israel and throughout the Middle East. Almighty God, grant all Americans the opportunity to realize our shared dream of a life filled with peace and plenty, health and happiness, compassion and contribution. Stir within us the confidence to rise to this moment. For while we trust in God, God's trust is in us, the American people. America is called to greatness, to be a beacon of light and a mover of history. May our nation merit the fulfillment of Jeremiah's blessing, that like a tree planted by water, we shall not cease to bear fruit. May all of humanity experience your love and your blessing. May it be thy will.
Except for Palestinians,
and let us say,
right, bud?
Amen.
I mean, like, the reality of American
Let us pray for our 47th president. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this.
The grifters in America are insane.
That America would begin
it's actually disgusting.
To dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident.
We hold the truths that we need to divide this nation. We need to destroy this empire and
we
pull it
pray
apart.
that you use our president.
A grifter is somebody
that
who
we will
doesn't
live in a
believe what they're
nation.
saying, and they say it for money.
We will not be judged by the color of our skin.
They steal from
but
organizations
by the content of our character.
Surrounding issues so they
Heavenly
can enrich
Father,
themselves.
in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last. Free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
Almighty and eternal God, we gather here today in reverence, joined in our shared hopes and dreams for our beloved nation. In this sacred moment of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, we turn our hearts to you, seeking your divine assistance and abundant blessings upon this pivotal moment in history. We come before you with profound gratitude.
The Republican Party, if you look at this and you find it to be odd, then you don't really understand American politics today. The Republican Party is the marriage of corporate kleptocracy with country bumpkin religious observance as an identity, but carrying no ideal, like actual no content, right? Like that's why they call themselves a Christian nation, which is completely meaningless. What a Mormon believes and what a Universalist believes or a Catholic believes are completely different and non-reconcilable. But they say we're a Christian nation because it's not the content of Christianity or the Gospels taught by Jesus that matter. It's the social political identity of being a Christian, which is the religion that came before. And so you're continuing the tradition. It's really it's a conservative nod towards tradition rather than a belief in any kind of theological system or way of being. That's why religious observance is dropping at the same time Donald Trump is winning. Donald Trump is a representation of the type of postmodern conservatism, and they use this shit as just window dressing. They don't believe in anything. They don't care about it. You know, it's just gestures. I mean, it's just, what can you say?
This time of transition, may your light shine upon them, reaffirming their belief in a brighter tomorrow. May we all strive to lift one another, supporting our fellow citizens with kindness and empathy, recognizing that together we can overcome any adversity. Grant us the strength to endure, the courage to face our fears, and the clarity to see the light that remains, even when clouds of uncertainty may gather. Inspire our new leaders to be champions for the vulnerable and advocates for those whose voices are often silenced. May they pursue policies that promote the well-being of all, seeking to build bridges that will foster unity and belonging. As we stand witness to this inauguration, we hold fast to our faith in the goodness of each of us and the possibility of change. We trust that with your guidance, O God, our nation can move forward to a future filled with promise, prosperity, and understanding. And finally, we lift our hearts in gratitude for the beloved parents of President Trump. Without Mary and Fred Trump, this day would never be the miracle that has just begun. From their place in heaven, may they shield their son from all harm by their loving protection, and give him the strength to guide our nation along the path that will make America great again. Let us go forth now with these words of President Trump's emblazoned on our hearts.
Pathetic.
As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail. We stand tall, we stand proud, because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God, and to God alone. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for our national anthem.
Can you say, o'er the dawns early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last
They think this guy's cooking. Speaking of cooking, chat, we are dangerously close to a hype train. If you enjoy the fact that we're all gonna die and both parties are fucking worthless, then please consider supporting the stream. It's some sort of quixotic gesture as we try to organize an attack on the Democratic Party. Now I want you to understand something, chat, right now. The Democratic Party is the crisis. The Democratic Party is the crisis. Because I hate the Republicans. I know you all hate them as well. Do I need to waste time on a preamble telling you Trump bad? Like, what do you want me to say? Trump bad. If you are thinking of voting for a Republican, you're a fucking dumbass. So what is the number one solution to this problem? The number one solution to this problem is what we see in Mexico, which is they destroyed the centrist party that was the left, and they formed their own. And now Claudia Sheinbaum has an 80% approval rating as they implement the first labor law in Mexico's history, as they build massive new railway networks within the country, as they raise wages, raise the minimum wage, lower poverty. Regular Mexicans are feeling their lives get better because of Claudia Sheinbaum and a bold, progressive plan.
We just had the national.
That is what we need to do. If you're sitting here going, Mike, why aren't you criticizing Trump enough? I can't believe you think that I need to do it more. Has that already been tried? How about we try building something that we can believe in and fight for?
And President Biden will depart, along with some members of his family, to California and Santa Ynez for a vacation out there with his family. The president's inaugural address, he promised a golden age in which he said a revolution of common sense, in which he promised a bunch of new changes. And I think later today at Capital One Arena, if not in the next hour or so, we will see him sign what has been described as a blizzard of executive orders and actions on everything from the border to energy to also government efficiency and issues about gender and more.
Yeah, in the spirit of getting right to it in his second term, the president kind of skipped the inaugural address and jumped right to the State of the Union, listing the promises and plans, which were ambitious, disruptive, and every inch what he was elected by his supporters, his core supporters, to do. But like a State of the Union, you know, the proof will be in the pudding, the proof will be in the doing. We also have the experience of the first administration and the infrastructure bill, which was much discussed and never came. As a tonal matter, we've been talking a lot about this day, which has a kind of special grace that hovers over it. Political grudges are paused. Donald Trump benefited from that grace.
Immediately went into it, launching attacks on Joe Biden. But look at all these Democrats. Oh my God, look at these scumbags. Not one leader among them. Not one. I'm a trans woman, and I literally don't know what I'm going to do. I'm scared. Well, let's be honest. The Democratic Party wants to throw you under the bus. The Democratic Party wants to block your ability to get medical treatment because they want to block you and trans kids in sports. They want to do everything they can to marginalize you because that's what they did to queer people too. If you get a single positive mention, it's begrudging. So if you want to do something, you need to start building an alternative and stop apologizing for existing. You're not the problem. The problem is that the Democratic Party doesn't address problems in this country. And so people are distracted by culture war bullshit. You know when culture war bullshit wasn't working? The fucking New Deal. When they were hiring millions of people to do the Civilian Conservation Corps, do you think the Republicans were running around going, oh my God, please, I can't believe women are getting jobs? It wasn't working. My admin has already told me to tone down the gay stuff in my classroom. Oh, I'm absolutely sure that's going to continue.
When you talk to people, he starts right away saying the golden age of America begins now. I did like that he acknowledged that it was Martin Luther King Day, and that under his leadership, Martin Luther King's dream is going to come true. Well, I'm curious about which dream exactly he's talking about, because he proceeded to say America's decline is over. We're going to reclaim the public. He was saved by God to make America great again. Listen, the American people spoke. He won. He won the electoral vote. He won all the swing states. Everybody understands that. But now we're at the point where I think people are saying, how are you going to unite us? And if I'm sitting there as someone who, and I'm sitting there as a Democrat, or if you didn't vote for Trump, where do I fit into this conversation? I think many people are wondering that. People at this point, guys, I believe, just really want to be united. We know that he won. Everyone, I think, has accepted that Donald Trump won this race fair and square.
A jubilant moment for the Trump family as their father is returned to office. I want to bring in historian Douglas Brinkley. Douglas?
Yeah, well, you know, I think it was really the speech about the golden age of the past America, and now he's saying it's today. He had all the tropes of American exceptionalism thrown into the hopper there, pushing the concept of manifest destiny and the settling of the West, that God had ordained it, claiming that we're going to grab, and I think this is a newsbreaker, he is saying we're going to take back the Panama Canal, that William McKinley funded it, Theodore Roosevelt built it, and it's ours, and China's controlling it. You know, and right straight on through, American MAGA is American exceptionalism on steroids. But look how we've changed this.
American on this exceptionalism on steroids basically means America doesn't have to follow any kind of international treaty or law. We violate all the principles we say we care about. We just invade countries. Why? Because America is exceptional. Celebrating manifest destiny is akin to celebrating the Holocaust. Oh yeah. I mean, America is a nation founded on aggressive wars of expansion to steal land via force. I mean, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas were seized from Mexico by force. Puerto Rico by force. The Louisiana Purchase, buying much of central of the United States from France, is actually a misnomer because we stole the land from the indigenous nations that were already there. The French didn't own it. They didn't control it. The United States of America is built on aggressive. It's the only nation in the world that was instantly founded as an empire. It didn't come from a coherent nation of people that were settled in a place for thousands of years like most other nations. We were founded as a place to steal and aggressively expand and attack others. The United States of America represents the final block of humanity's advancement. That's the honest to God truth.
In the Senate, pursuing a major package on the border along with tax reform, a total upending of many agencies and departments across the federal government, and a scaling back of the size of the federal government. You see the Trump family there. But this was a speech of action, and he explicitly detailed what he is going to do. And for people who haven't been paying attention to the campaign or to the transition, this was Trump underscoring, I mean business. Policy changes are coming, and they will be sweeping.
And I just want to note that Hillary Clinton there and President Bill Clinton there are shaking every member of the Trump's family, despite the things that they have said about her. And I think it was, I'm told by people close to the Clintons, it was very important for them to not only show up, but to show the sort of graciousness that normally accompanies former presidents, and to make sure that they publicly support this peaceful transition of power. There is some news at this moment about those last-minute pardons by President Biden. So I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Ed O'Keefe. And Ed, we're watching lawmakers right now, Democratic lawmakers and others set to see President Biden off. What have you learned about those pardons?
Nora, it is not hyperbole to say that as the now former president was taking the stage in the rotunda, his White House was sending out word that he had issued more preemptive pardons, this time to 3 people and their spouses who've been with him his entire political career. His siblings, James, Valerie, and Frank Biden, and their spouses, saying in part that amid all the talk about political retribution, he felt it necessary to do this despite his respect for the rule of law. In the remaining moments of the Biden presidency, phone calls made by CBS News to try to figure out why he did this. And one source familiar with the decision tells me the outgoing president made it to pardon his siblings and their spouses just in the last few days, amid the, quote, continuing talk and concern about possible prosecution and persecution by the new administration. The source said there was no specific recent action or statement by the now president that prompted Biden's decision, and the source didn't know whether the former president's siblings requested the pardon. All 3 of them have been active in the now former president's political career. James
losing
Biden
their shit
was his
over Donald Trump pardoning his family. Do you guys remember that? Donald Trump ended up not doing that. Meanwhile, Joe Biden pardons his entire family for any crimes they may have committed for well before he was in the presidency. Why do you think that is? Because they committed a lot of crimes, like his dumb fucking son. They were taking bribes left and right. They were trading on his influence as vice president. Like they were trading, like it is what it is. And my guess is a lot of the crimes they committed have statutes of limitations that prior to January 2014 would make them no longer prosecutable. So he felt like he only had to go back that far. I mean, his son is a wanton criminal. Like there's no doubt about that, right? Like nobody disagrees with that. Just people think it's funny.
He did not walk down the steps of the East Front. Remember, amid all the concerns about whether he can ascend staircases, especially in this tough weather, notable that he did not do that. Nora?
And it should be noted, too, the ages of both of these presidents.
True.
Donald Trump, 78 years old, now becomes the oldest president elected at age 78 and will serve into his 80s as well as Joe Biden, who is now 82 years old, just having had his birthday in November. And
guys, do you think Donald Trump makes it to 86? Do you think Joe Biden makes it to 86? Which do you think dies first? I think Joe Biden is not going to make it to 2028. Like I think he's on his last legs. Like he's probably going to die within the next couple of years. If you said over under Joe Biden survives to the midterm elections, I would probably take the over, but I would take the under on him surviving to the next inauguration day. Not sure if you saw this, but I can't say I'm not surprised. Yeah, he didn't pardon Stephen Doninger. Just got word from inside the Biden team that I will not be receiving a pardon and that Chevron lawyers are working overtime to try to kill my request despite 34 members of Congress backing me. Mark my words, our pardon campaign and fight for justice will continue. Pathetic. Joe Biden is a fucking criminal. He had plenty of time to pardon his brother for all the crimes he committed. Biden dies in 6 months. I'm calling it. I don't know. He's like so demented and so old. Like without the nonstop 24-hour medical care that a president gets. Like you have to remind yourself that right now he has a whole team, up until today at noon, he had a whole team of people that were surrounding him 24/7. He probably had like all sorts of monitoring. He had a doctor that was like literally there. So now he's going to become a private citizen. A former president is not quite a private citizen. He'll still have access to tons of tremendous care and things like that. And he'll have a couple Secret Service agents and whatnot. But like going from the level of care he was getting as president to an ex-president, I don't think he's going to hold up. I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it. And if he does, he'll be basically a shell. Migrants in Ciudad Juarez were waiting for their 1 p.m. CBP1 parole appointments. Learned 20 minutes ago that the app has shut down and those appointments are no longer valid. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no more. Yeah, migration is going to get shut down. But here's the thing that you need to keep in mind. This is what you need to keep in mind. The United States, the only reason why the United States was a strong nation was because we had a constant brain drain and migrants coming from the rest of the world. So a lot of people who are ambitious, hard workers would flow to the United States. Because we had nominally higher pay, people could come here, work a job, and then send money home. And so we had a constant flow of people who were coming in, and they didn't need services, because when do people need services the most? When they're really old and when they're children. So when adults come here at like 25 to work, that's like the ideal thing for America, because we didn't have to pay to raise them. We didn't have to pay for 25 years of education. We didn't have to pay for 25 years of food and medical care. Like they come here as an adult ready to work. That's a tremendous benefit to the United States. So as the United States turns against immigration and our native population is not reproducing. So our population is going to go from expanding, which was a huge source of a lot of our strength, to contracting. That's going to cause all sorts of economic problems, because we're not going to be able to find labor. We're not going to see, our population curve is going to start bending down, which means, demand for assets is going to eventually start going down, and there's a huge pyramid of complicated collateralized debt obligations that were based on the idea that asset prices would continue to deflate forever and ever and ever. Well, those asset prices deflating might cause other things to start to crumble. So, I mean, it's horrible for those migrants, and my heart goes out to them. But from the perspective of the U.S. empire, it's one of those kind of insidious blows that Trump is striking, that any anti-imperialist plotting for America's fall would want something like that. Like, if you were to say, Mike, what policies would you want to pursue to destroy America? Shutting off all immigration would be at the top of my list. Shutting off immigration to America would be at the top of my list. Like, that would be one of the key ways to undermine American power. The other thing would be to get rid of the Department of Education. The less engineer, because that causes a double crunch, right? So you're blocking migrants from coming here, plus you're defunding education. So America's capacity to even maintain its current standard of living is under threat. And it's going to very rapidly start to crumble, because without either skilled migrants coming in to fill those jobs, and with the Department of Education getting smaller, less Americans being capable of completing education and training. And if you do, you have to go into a lot of debt, which means there's a lot more people that are not going to be able to do things like entrepreneurial small businesses, things like that. All the diamonism that certain forms of social democratic capitalism have are going to be fundamentally undermined. And we are arcing towards more of a rentier, techno-feudalist kind of underperforming economy, like a stagnating economy. So, and wealthy and educated Americans are going to start fleeing abroad, because if I have a PhD, but I have $400,000 of debt, and I can move to Slovakia and get a really good salary, and nobody tries to collect my fucking student loans, win-win. Yeah, I heard that story about Destiny is apparently being sued for revenge porn by somebody. I don't, it's the inauguration, so we'll probably talk about it more tomorrow. But Destiny is being sued for revenge porn by one of the victims. She just posted it. So we're going to be talking about that. It's also a criminal offense in Florida. Revenge porn is a crime. So I hope that they file a police report, because you can't do that. You can't take videos of people and then share them in intimate sexual encounters and share them with others without their consent. That's a crime. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Is Nick Fuentes next to sue him for revenge porn? I don't know if we ever confirmed it was Nick in the revenge porn. All we have is a disembodied penis being sucked. I don't know that we know the identity of the penis. Has the identity of the penis been confirmed as Nick Fuentes? I don't know. It's a Grindr hookup? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think it's just we don't know who it is, so it's a little bit harder. But some of the other stuff is pretty crazy. So I think that, we have to support them, and we, there's a lot of ways to go about this. The idea of just hey, we should ignore this because it's drama or whatever is wrong. We should support the person who's being attacked, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Obviously, I don't want to get into drama on the inauguration day, and it's not drama, it's a crime. Okay. It's fucked up. But Destiny's committed a lot of crimes over the years. So I mean, when he had confessed to planning the murder of a child, that's the confession of conspiracy to commit murder or intention. You know what I mean? He confessed to that. When he confessed to making an 8-year-old boy show his penis on stream, that was soliciting sexual provocative acts from a minor. That's a crime. He's admitted to a lot of, when he admitted to choking his ex-wife, that is aggravated assault. He's committed a lot of crimes, and he's admitted a lot of them on stream, and it's never, he hasn't been prosecuted. So, I mean, it is what it is. We're talking about Destiny.
That disqualifying? And also, was the return to normalcy that Biden promised and attempted to deliver, was that good enough? And I think Democrats lost the public discussion on both of those points, unfortunately, for us politically. And I think when
Go
you
back
have
to
a public,
plan to murder a child. Basically, there was like a 13-year-old boy that was DDoSing him when he was playing StarCraft or something, and so he found out who it was, and he planned to murder the guy and his dad, and he like bought a gun and he like investigated. Oh, is it 15? Okay, so yeah, he learned where the kid lived. He bought a gun. He planned it out, but he decided not to do it. Which, you know, that's conspiracy to commit murder.
And still just let go of the grievances? Is that not? Did it feel like a grievance speech to you or no?
The grievances of President Trump certainly, Gail, coursed throughout the remarks today. But what's so clear to me, based on my reporting on his inner circle, my conversations with the president, is that he truly believes, and you could argue it, that he has a mandate, and that Washington has accepted his mandate by giving him Republican majorities. And he believes that his critics, wherever they might be, will be relatively muted in the years to come.
And we're about to hear from President Donald Trump address Emancipation Hall, but I want to head first to Weijia Jiang at the White House, who has some new reporting about the new Trump team that's already there at the White House and at work. Weijia.
Nora, that's right. As all of this was unfolding at the Capitol, of course, there has to be a physical transition of power as well. And so by the busloads, 3 busloads, in fact, new incoming administration officials were brought over here to the White House from the Capitol. We also know that a van of national security staff drove onto the White House.
The Ethan Klein content nuke.
About the kid you threatened to kill on League. Okay, I'll be honest. That's something that personally I'm ashamed about. There's not a lot that I can say that about, but there are some things in my life that I've done that I'm genuinely ashamed of. And that kid, that Justin Pro or whatever kid that I made those death threats to, I'm personally ashamed that I didn't follow up and actually find where that kid lives and fucking murder him. But unfortunately, I have a kid of my own. I can't afford to go to jail in due time, so I couldn't follow it as much as I would have liked to. I regret making a threat that I couldn't follow up on. If in another universe where I don't have a kid, maybe, you know, I put all of my finances and shit and we go full Batman and I find him and I fucking kill him. But unfortunately, I can't do that now, so I'm sorry for ever making that comment. I shouldn't have done it if I wasn't ready to follow through with it. That's my... What about the...
Yeah. I mean, this guy is he's a criminal. He's always been one, like we all know. And that's why a lot of people don't really want to fight with him, because they know he's an unhinged, dangerous guy, but it is what it is. Sometimes he picks you and you got to deal with it.
Campus before noon, and they went right into the Situation Room, according to aides who told CBS that they got right to work. We also took note that right at the strike of noon, if you clicked on the White House website, the government website, viewers could see a video of President Trump, a montage of him doing various things throughout the country. There was already posted several of their priorities. There was a space for executive orders, which will be filled once he begins signing them. And of course, there is the physical move of stuff as well. There are moving trucks behind us. We were wandering through the West Wing, and we could see people bringing things in and out. And we saw some of the last staffers from the Biden administration here as well, including the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. So this was a very smooth transition so far physically, and we expect those staffers to come in throughout the day to be with President Trump. Nora?
All right, Weijia Jiang, thank you. We're listening now to Speaker Mike Johnson, who is in Emancipation Hall. Let's listen in for a moment.
With hundreds of thousands of our closest friends, but our disappointment is well overcome with our excitement for the future that we feel today. We have the chance to make the next 4 years the most consequential period in our nation's history. And as Speaker of the House, it is my great pleasure, my great honor, to introduce to you the man who will lead us to this new golden age, the decisive winner of the Electoral College and the popular vote, the 45th and the 47th, and the greatest president of our lifetimes, Donald J. Trump.
we're expecting another set of remarks from President Donald Trump because there is a huge overflow crowd. Let's bring in Nancy Cordes, who is there in Emancipation Hall. Nancy?
That's right, Nora. Emancipation Hall today serving as a very elegant overflow room, about 1,300 seats that have been set up here for people who would have had a bird's eye view had this event been held outside, but instead watch the events unfold on the big screen here in the room. It's a very partisan crowd. We have glimpsed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. We have seen Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia in here. The crowd applauded throughout the president's inaugural address as if they were in the same room that he was in. And interestingly, Nora, a few minutes ago, when we saw Special Air Mission 46 lift off, there was a big round of applause.
All I could say is Lady McBiden being humiliated by... Did you guys see the Christine Pelosi quote? Could you guys show me this? Can you find the Christine Pelosi quote? It's very funny. Bernie Sanders is a real one. I got it. Oh, thank you so much, Celestial Veil. Listen to this. Listen to this quote. Lady McBiden, Alexandria Pelosi blasts the First Lady. The feud between the president and ex-speaker intensifies in the waning days of his presidency. Since breaking her hip in Europe last month, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been deluged with messages, flowers, and calls of concern from heads of state, colleagues in both parties, and even royalty. Most notably, Luxembourg's Grand Duke Henry, who was hosting her when she fell and has been solicitous throughout her recovery. Yet it's who she has not heard from that's the most remarkable, and that has infuriated Pelosi's friends and family, Joe and Jill Biden. Fueling that anger is Jill Biden's continued and now public nursing of a grudge toward Pelosi for pushing the president withdraw from last year's campaign. If I was Lady McBiden, I'd put on my big girl pants, pay the long game, and think about my husband's legacy. Alexandria Pelosi, the former speaker's daughter, told me Saturday. There aren't that many people left in America who have something nice to say about Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi is one of them. The younger Pelosi made clear she was speaking only for herself. Lady McBiden. It's really funny that they say this now that they've given the fucking country to Donald Trump, right? All right, chat. I want to show... Okay, while we were watching the inaugural coverage, we'll get back to this in a second. I want to see Donald Trump's, like, welcoming. We'll do that in a second. Just one thing that was happening is there's this one centrist Democrat influencer who tries to pretend to be part of the left called Organizer Memes. Very annoying account. And the problem that we have is that people like me are too nice to basically faux progressives like that. Because there's this kind of desperation on the left that's kind of pathetic, to be quite honest, where like anytime a centrist Democrat or a Democrat influencer says anything nice about any of the fucking squad or whatever, people fall over backwards to pretend that those people are one of us. They're absolutely not. And I made it my favorite little post. I made a post. Kamala Harris is now unemployed, smile. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that I am so happy Kamala Harris is unemployed because she is a scumbag piece of shit genocider who handed this country to Donald Trump. And the one consolation prize we get is watching her slink off into the sunset, hopefully never to be heard from again. And that pissed off the liberals. The liberals are so bad. Oh, you're not, you like fascism now? No, I hate Donald Trump, and I've hated him more than you, and I called him a fascist 10 years ago, you fucking losers. It was you that were afraid to use the fascism word. But I will say, he did end the genocide in Gaza that Kamala Harris wouldn't promise to end. Kamala Harris wouldn't say, we're going to end the genocide. I'm going to break from Joe Biden. Joe Biden's wrong. She said he's doing everything right, and I would have done everything the same. So I'm going to smile when she suffers, even if I know it's not going to be anything like making up for all the harm that Donald Trump is going to do. So go ahead and get in there and just yell at all the liberals. Okay, but the next 4 years is going to be worse for us than the last 4? Wrong. They're going to be the exact same. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are largely the fucking same. Like when Joe Biden came into office, you know what he did on immigration? He adopted all of Trump's policies on immigration, basically. The only thing that was different between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is that there was a pandemic at the end of Donald Trump's term. So when he shut down the border, he could use the pandemic. When Joe Biden came into office, a lot of the backlog of people that were waiting to come in because of the pandemic were allowed to come in. And do you know what Joe Biden did to make it worse? He tightened the screws of economic recession on Cuba and Venezuela. So they had an economic crisis coming out of the pandemic in those two countries. The oil prices were really low in Venezuela, and the United States stole all that country's money and wouldn't let countries trade with Venezuela, which destroyed their economy and caused millions of people to flee the country as economic migrants. That was all a direct result of Biden continuing Trump's aggressive policies toward those countries. Why are we sanctioning Venezuela and Cuba? We're allied with Saudi Arabia and Egypt, which have torture factories. An American journalist was murdered in a Saudi embassy in Turkey because he criticized Saudi Arabia's government. Is Venezuela kidnapping American journalists to torture to death in their embassies? I must have missed that. We are sanctioning those countries because we want to disrupt their political system and because they don't kowtow to the United States. And that's causing millions of people to flee those countries. That's Donald Trump. That's Joe Biden. They're the fucking same. Joe Biden with the war, his insane warmongering in Israel, his insane warmongering in Lebanon, and insane warmongering in Syria, his insane warmongering all over the Middle East and Africa. I mean, he's just continued all the policies. He kept the tariffs that Trump put in. Joe Biden continued those tariffs. He put new tariffs on solar panels and EVs. Like, they're the same thing, man. And I wish it wasn't the case. Trump and the Supreme Court are going to dismantle workers' rights and the NLRB and any remaining consumer protections. You would say Joe Biden was good for unions? You would say Joe Biden was good for unions? How come if Joe Biden was so good for unions and the vast majority of Americans want to join a union, union membership hit a fresh record low? If he was such a pro-union president, how come all the unions are fucking losing? I think your standards and what you believe is like possible is so low that you think he was good. And if you think Joe Biden was good, you're part of the problem because you're not really connected to the working class experience, or you're propagandized and you don't think straight. I need you to start thinking materially. If there's record homelessness, that's not a successful president. When more Americans, hundreds of thousands of more Americans are sleeping out on the street, that's not a successful president. Okay? I don't care that he passed tax credits for corporations to build factories in Texas if hundreds of thousands of Americans are in the fucking street. I don't care that he got one good appointment at the FTC if there's a genocide going on in Gaza. Your standards are so pathetically low. That's why we're in the crisis of Donald Trump, because you're trying to flog this as some sort of success. He's out of office. The Democrats lost. Can you start telling the truth now? Can you start pushing for a better world now? Can you start saying to people, I hear you. I want to make sure that every single American has the home that they reasonably desire. Every single American should have control over their own home, whether they own it or they're a part of a co-op. We should undermine the fact that there's a class of landlords who do nothing but extract all the money you make goes into paying rent. You can't afford a mortgage because of interest rates and the way prices have skyrocketed, which, by the way, is another record high home prices. Do you know home prices have never been higher than they are now since World War II? Do you understand the crisis? Here we are. Here's the chart. Home price to median household income ratio. Now, home prices are now higher than they were at any period since 1945, according to a ratio between median household income and home price. So this isn't just like inflation adjusted. This is what does the average household make, or the median household make rather, versus what are the home prices? Right now, they're higher than they were during the housing bubble. You think this is a success? Can you afford to buy a home? I think the main crisis we have in America today is that people who think they're progressive don't actually believe in progress. They believe in maintaining the status quo and tinkering around the edges. You are not progressive if you think that we're going to fix this country by passing some certain tax code or cutting taxes on the rich, or Joe Biden was going to appoint an FTC chair. That's going to change America. What you need is grand, massive programs. Go study the New Deal. I want you to go ahead and study a New Deal. They literally started giving people homes and community. They would build communities for people and they would give them a home. They would give millions of people jobs. They would build beautiful public buildings and public transit and national parks and hydroelectric dams, which was the green energy of the time. We still today have a government-owned enterprise called the Tennessee Valley Authority, which provides electric power for 9 American states. That's run and founded by FDR and the government. And it has, guess what? Some of the lowest prices for energy and the highest uptime. I mean, like, the problem that we face is that liberals, who, you know, they have just lost their imagination. They've lost the ability to believe the world could be a better place. How many of you live in Los Angeles or in California? Do you actually think it's possible to build that high-speed rail from Los Angeles to San Francisco? What do you think is blocking that? Do you think it's impossible to build the train? Like, physically impossible to build the train? What's going on? Why can't they do it? And if your answer is bureaucracy, then you're lying to yourself. The answer is rich Californians sue the government and block it. California Democrats hire 8 different consultants to do studies for a decade instead of hiring guys who know how to install fucking railroads to build the motherfucking thing. It doesn't take 9 years to plan a railroad. So what I'm asking you to do is, in this moment of utter collapse of the Democratic Party, I need you to stop lowering your expectations. I need you to start believing big things again. I need you to start thinking, my country, my city could have public transit. We could build public transit in the city in 10 years from scratch. We could have a subway in my city in 10 years from scratch, from nothing to it completely blanketing the city. We can build millions of high quality social and public housing for everyone in places they actually want to live. We can transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy in 10 years. We just have to want to do it. Brother, you're asking us to wish cast things into existence. No, the very first thing to do, before you can do anything, you have to believe you can do it. A journey begins with the first step. I'm not saying to wish cast. I'm saying this is what I will accept and no less. And build the movement that demands it. Power concedes nothing without demand. You're never going to get a thing unless you ask for it. Stop being weak, stop being pathetic, and start demanding more. I saw a short recently, or maybe it was on Twitter, but it was like comparing the railroad system in America to China. Fuck, I wish I had saved it. Just so I could show it right now. Thank you, Sunjogging, for the tier 3. Is this realistic as the mantra of a liberal? Of course it's realistic. You just have to want to do it. Also, the idea of, I want to talk to you about one of the elements of bureaucracy that is abused. The idea of, oh, we just discovered this, you know, we have this smelt, or we have some turtle, and oh, we can't build. We just discovered this thing. Oh, no. We should have a federal endangered species wing of the Interior Department that goes around and studies all of our biology and our ecology. It has plans for development and how to mitigate harms to different species already baked in. There shouldn't need to be a new study. The study should already be done. It should be on the fucking shelf. If I want to build a railroad from point A to point B, I should have a study already done that I can pull and go, okay, here's this species, here's this species, here's the mitigations for this species, this is what we're going to do to protect that habitat. So it's fucking done. This is basic shit. But instead it's, oh, this person has to sue, and then they have 5 years of litigation, and the person doesn't really care about the smelt or the turtle. They just don't want the railroad near their property. That's the type of shit that has to go. Not because I don't think protecting animals is important. It's very important to protect our ecology. What we need to get rid of is our inability to do anything, because you know what happens when you don't build the high-speed train? You have people driving fucking SUVs, one person SUV, spewing massive amounts of pollution and particulates into the air. You know, you have oil, you have gas leaking and flowing into streams and polluting it from dirty runoff. You kill far more endangered species by the fact we don't have high-speed rail between San Francisco and fucking New York City than you ever would because you built a railroad that, you know, nearby a turtle habitat or whatever the fuck. This is the reality, is our country is a shithole. And if the left and if liberals, if you want to believe that things can get better, you have to believe that things can happen. You should look up the San Francisco Bay Area key system. It was a public trade system that went all over the Bay Area until Big Auto purchased it and then decommissioned it to make people buy cars. Pathetic. Bro, was it you that showed me how coal mining just destroys mountains? Yes.
1880万啊，这个钱是四家村今年给村民分成的。
This is the dividend from the collective economy of Xizha Village. Yeah, in China, they do this thing where they pay you money They collectively own the village, and then they give village dividends, and so people get a bunch of cash. Because the government owns, and everybody owns their own home, and because the state owns water, electricity, telecommunications, etc., those prices are really low. Do you know what country didn't have any inflation during the COVID era? China. You know what country didn't have any inflation? Fucking China. Here it is. Differences between inflation rates in China and the US. Okay, this is the wrong one. This is the wrong chart. Where's the fucking chart? Why is Google so much worse? Why is it not generate shit anymore? What the fuck? Everything is dog shit. Here you go. And the worst inflation they had was 2%. They've had zero inflation in 2023 and 2024, 0.2 and 0.3. The worst inflation they got was 2%. They never had inflation. Oh man, let's see if I can find that. Damn, I wish I had saved this thing. They had record high exports, but their domestic consumption is really doing badly. Yeah, the problem with China is they need to increase domestic consumption probably. But Chinese people don't need to consume that much. I live in a small city in a rural county. Biggest issue is poor people unable to drive to work or make probation/parole check-ins. We have a shuttle, but that's in town. Buses will not service enough people, but we could do a public taxi and Uber-style transportation, which could be a model for others. That's really expensive. But yes, it is better than nothing. I'm trying to find this thing. Oh, man. Fuck, this really sucks. I wish I could find it. Is this the link?
Can we talk about the
this
Chinese high-speed
rail
network? Because I want to put something into perspective for you that I find. Can we talk about the Chinese high-speed rail network? Because I want to put something into perspective for you that I find fascinating. They have a train that goes from Beijing all the way up here in the north, all the way down to Guangzhou in the south of China, which is a distance of 1,300 miles. And it just so happens that that's almost the same distance as driving from New York City all the way down to Miami, about a 20-hour trip, and that's if you don't stop and traffic is good. And if you choose Amtrak, it would take about 29 hours, and that's if the train is on time. And if you've ever ridden Amtrak like I have, you know that's highly unlikely. The Chinese train, however, covers that distance, 1,300 plus miles, in 7 hours and 17 minutes. And yes, there are some slower ones you can see here. I'm going to be fully transparent. This one is 10 hours, which is still not that bad. What's even more crazier, though, is the one that goes from Beijing down to Shanghai, which is a distance of about 750 miles, which is roughly the same as driving from Atlanta to Dallas, Texas, Salt Lake City down to Los Angeles, or New York to Chicago. It's about a 12-hour drive if you don't have traffic and you don't stop, which again is impossible. The Beijing to Shanghai train covers the 750-mile distance in 4.5 hours. Amtrak, on the other hand, will take about,
19 hours.
Can you imagine the possibilities? You could literally take a day trip from New York to Chicago, leave in the morning, get there by noon, then leave around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, be back by midnight. You live in Atlanta and just want to go to Miami for a day or two? Done. It's a 3.5-hour train ride. Your grandmother who lives 4 states over can't drive or doesn't want to drive to see you, doesn't like the airport. Now you have no excuse to see grandma, and she doesn't either. Oh, and by the way, this is what the map looked like in 2008.
This is what America is in most desperate need of. This is what America is in most desperate need of. People that stop compromising before they've even done anything. Stop going in there and trying to be pragmatic and practical, because guess what, chat? You don't know what pragmatic or practical even is, okay? You're being manipulated. Whenever somebody says, oh, who's going to pay for that? Or how's that? Well, we can't do that. This is the richest country in the history of the world. We've been building railroads since 1835. We can build a railroad from fucking LA to San Francisco in a year and a half if we wanted to. Okay? This is a country that is full of corruption. It's full of graft. It's full of worthless sacks of shit that just want to steal money. And those people should be in prison. Stop accepting that things suck shit. Stop trying to... you don't know what's pragmatic. You don't know what's possible. And I'm showing you what actually exists in China for one reason. I'm not saying we're going to build it as fast as the Chinese do, okay? But the idea that we can't build a single line from LA to San Francisco is mind-bogglingly fucking stupid. We have the ability to do that. We could provide everybody with high-quality social and public housing, free public health care, a free college education, or free trade school. We could provide people with high quality public transit and clean streets and clean air and renewable energy that was affordable for everybody. There is no country in the world that has better renewable energy potential than the United States of America. None. We have some of the windiest plains. We have sunny deserts that are co-located with some of our largest population centers. We have huge hydrological basins for hydropower. We have the ability to build anything we set our minds to. The reality is what's been happening to us is that you've been sold a fucking scam. So stop believing these small-minded, small-dicked, so-called pragmatic who are actually just corrupt politicians.
No, he's right. I looked, I said, oh, look at this beautiful sunny day. We blew it, and then I went outside and we were freezing. You would have been very unhappy. The sun was very deceptive, I will tell you. It is cold out. And I'm sort of saying, that was so beautiful today. Maybe they should do it there every 4 years. Does that make sense? I don't know. Because, the outdoor thing is really good, but it gets a little cold around this time of the year, as some people have noticed. And a lot of times they suffer through it. There was no suffering in that room. It was 72 degrees. It was perfect with the best acoustics I think I've ever heard in a room. This is not so bad either. But I just want to say, you're a younger, far more beautiful audience that I just spoke to. And I want to keep it off the record. I want to keep that off the record because I don't want to have all those big shots up there. I don't want to think you're more powerful than them, you look better than them, and I love you. Now, we just had a great time. We just had a great day. This was amazing. When you think we took a journey, I mentioned in the speech, a lot of people said that was not a journey that was possible, and it was indeed possible. I didn't really know too much about what they were saying when they said that, but a lot of people felt it. And we hooked up with J.D. very early. I watched J.D. over a period of time. I endorsed him in Ohio. He was a great senator and very, very smart. The only one smarter than him was his wife. That was I would have chosen her, but somehow the line of succession didn't work that way, right? But now she's great and he's great. This is a great, beautiful couple and unbelievable career. I just said to him, you are very upwardly mobile, because he hasn't been doing it that long, but he picked it up so quickly. Remember, the first week was a little bit like the fake news was hitting him really hard. And I said, ooh, this may be tough, but after that, it was smooth sailing for him. He took on everybody. He took on the meanest. I don't want to use the word corrupt because we're into a new system, so let's wait till the corruption begins, because it will. But he took on some pretty mean people, and he handled it well. I want to also congratulate Mike Johnson for the job that he's doing. Steve, we gave him a majority of almost nothing, and then I said to make it tougher on him, let me take 2 or 3 of the people, right? I said he'll only have to suffer with that for about 3 months. How are they doing, by the way? Are they? Is that moving along?
Totally unified.
I said, do you mind if I take this one, that one, and a couple of others? He didn't mind. He can handle it. No, he's a man that's liked by everybody. I've never met a man like this. You've got how many is it, 219 or 220 or something? 220. And of the 220, 219 really like him. I noticed he got 1 negative vote once about 2 weeks ago. But I think even 220 like him, if you want to know the truth. And that's very unusual. I know a lot of nice guys in Congress, and they have 35 people that hate him. So if you have 35 people that hate you and you only have 1 or 2 or 3 votes, you'll have 5, I think. But that's going to be like, the good news is when we get to that 5 number, it's going to feel like a massive majority. You could be really nasty to a couple of them at least. So it's going to feel like hitting your head on the wall and stopping. It feels so good to stop. But he's done a fantastic job. And Steve Scalise he's our hero because, I was with him. You talk about being shot. I was with him. He got some bad ones, and his incredible wife, and she really loves him. You never know about that. I've been with other people They were doing poorly, and the wife is like looking at her watch. She can't get out of the hospital fast enough. How's he doing? Oh, I don't know. He's all right. That woman was a mess. She was crying and crying. No, they're going to take him. They're going to take him. I told Steve when he finally woke up, it was a while, too. The doctor told me it was the most blood they've ever transfused in any patient. They've never done anything like it. And here he is, the picture of strength, right? And he's been a great friend of mine, right? With a family, because of a family. And what a job you did. It worked out pretty much better than we even thought, right? And I did have a couple of things, to say that were extremely controversial. And between J.D. and Melania and anybody else that heard, please, sir, it's such a beautiful, unifying speech. Please, sir, don't say these things. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to play great. They say, you're right. For this group of people, it's going to play great. You're the only ones I hurt by not, but we had some beauties, didn't we, Melania? She said, sir. Calls me sir when she's angry. No, I'm only kidding. I better say I'm only kidding, or the press is going to pick that one up loud and clear. No, but she said, no, I think it would be terrible. It's such a nice speech. I think it's, it all depends on your delivery. How was the delivery? Was it good? But she said it's such a beautiful speech. You can't put things in there that you were going to put in. And I was going to talk about the J6 hostages, but you'll be happy because, it's action, not words that count. And you're going to see a lot of action on the J6 hostages. See a lot of action. And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, where they literally, what they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500, and it would have stopped. Because we may have had 1 million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. But you don't see those photographs. They don't put them in. They show the people at the Capitol. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that. They said, please don't bring that up right now. You can bring it up tomorrow. I said, how about now in front of I'll bring it up right now. This little time delay is good because we're getting great reviews on the speech. Now watch. They'll take the speech and say, I didn't like it because he left there and he's talked to people. But we're giving you a little more information than we gave upstairs. But no, they pardoned a lot of people. They pardoned, before we even get to today, they pardoned, 33 murderers, absolute murderers, the worst murderers. When you get the death sentence in the United States, you have to be bad because they don't give it much. And he pardoned almost everybody having a death sentence. And if you went through the crimes...
He didn't pardon them. He commuted them to life in prison with a possibility of parole.
Violence. The people that were killed,
which is
the
not
innocence
a pardon.
Of people that were killed and children killed by these people. And he pardoned them for whatever reason. He spared them. But they didn't spare the people that they killed, and who knows what happens in the future. It's one of the worst because a lot of times they let them out early after that. They say you're going to be in for life, but then all of a sudden they get let out for good behavior, and then they go on a rampage. It's one of those little things.
Donald Trump is legitimately one of the dumbest pieces of shit, but he has a perfect wavelength of talking to other dumb pieces of shit.
Like Milley. Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said. Terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people? Why are we helping Liz Cheney? Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying. I looked at him. I remember years ago he was actually on my side. And then one day, when you don't want to kill people in wars, they turn against you. Liz Cheney hated the concept of not going to war with everybody. Let's kill everybody. Let's spend a lot of money on military equipment. you know, where her father works, right? And, but what she did was incredible. Think of it. They destroyed and deleted all of that information that went on for almost 2 years against Trump. And the reason they did, because it was all false. Like the person that said, I tried to strangle a Secret Service agent. That's one of the toughest human beings I think I've ever seen. I actually had a friend saying, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking about. Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me, like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, you know, there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is they were all caught in lies. You know, Secret Service testified, and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you?
This is one of the reasons why, like, as bad as Donald Trump winning the presidency is, I think hyperventilating over how he's a fascist is actually the wrong move because it discredits you as an intelligent interlocutor. The reality is he is a fucking dope. He's going to do bad policies that every other Republican would do and half the Democratic Party would do. So if you're hyperventilating over Trump and you want to do this anti-Trump grift again, it's not going to work because people are uninterested. He won the popular vote. So the idea that just saying Trump bad is a strategy is a good idea is it's just discredited. If you want to win elections, you can't just say Trump bad. It's what I've been saying for 8 fucking years. You have to actually believe in something and argue for something. I'm more concerned about the Heritage Foundation. That's the same thing as any other Republican.
10,000, think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. Maybe she wanted that to happen. But she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now would got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have
this is like legitimately a side of some sort of brainworm, right? Like you just do a speech and then you explain the process of why you did the speech that way, like 5 minutes later. Like, this is somebody who's suffering cognitive deficits, right? Like, this is something you put in your, like, diary. But I guess he has too low of a fucking, like, he's, like, senile as fuck. And now that Joe Biden is out of the picture, we can all see it. The rambling, just dipshittery.
As old as helicopters. You used to get into a stagecoach, now you get into a helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom, and it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? That's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one. All these people all over. You've been our fans. This has been there's never been anything like it. There's never been anything like it. This has been a movement like no movement ever in history for probably any country, let alone this country. You know, if somebody's running for president, and if they go out and they announce they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, they're going to someplace, if you have 200 or 300 people, that would be standard. Ronald Reagan would go out. I mean, outside of the last couple of days where people get a little excited, but even then you have a couple of thousand people. But if you're going to go someplace, any place, any one of the swing states, any one of the other states, I mean, how about the non-swing states? We won Alabama by 48 points. We won Tennessee by massive numbers. Wyoming, we won by numbers that are, nobody's ever seen numbers like that.
I mean, Donald Trump is right, actually, to point this out, which is that where Republicans are strong, electorally, they're getting stronger. And, you know, we could look at Mississippi and Alabama and say they're at the bottom of the ratings in education. They're at the bottoms of, you know, income and income inequality. And these seem to be shithole states. If they're all shitholes, why are the Republicans gaining, right? Like the worst states in the country are going Republican even faster. That's actually something worth studying and not ignoring and trying to understand. Why is that the case? And if that's the case, what can we do to disrupt it? And if your answer is voters are stupid or these people are scum or whatever, you have failed the test. You have failed the test because what you're really saying is you lack imagination, you lack discernment, you lack ideas. And I'm not saying we can make Alabama into a Democratic Party stronghold. But what I'm asking you is, why is a state that has some of the highest population of black people in this country so right-wing?
Terrible job. Wow, look at you. You mean we couldn't get you up in the front row? I tell you. Supposing I said, JD, the governor of Texas, he's not doing his job. You heard what I said. See, I didn't know you were there. I said he's doing a great job. He's doing a phenomenal job. But now you're going to have a partner that's going to work with you because you didn't have, not only didn't he have a partner, he had people selling the wall.
I love Donald Trump going up there and just humiliating Biden. And this is very important to watch if you're a liberal because he spat in your face. I think a lot of liberals are people that simply just do not have the ability to fight back. Let's talk about this. There's a video game I like to play to explain why you need to be able to fight back. I haven't played it in a while, but it's very important. It's called The Evolution of Trust. We're going to watch this for a second because Donald Trump's speech is boring. We're going to play a quick game of The Evolution of Trust. I want to explain to you why being a cuck little bitch 100% of the time is a loser's game. Okay, we don't need the sound. Oh, fuck. We don't need the music. Oh, fuck. Okay. Actually, you know what? Maybe I could turn it down really low. It's nice to have a little background music. That's all right. During World War I, peace broke out. It was Christmas 1914 on the Western Front. Despite strict orders not to chillax with the enemy, British and German soldiers left their trenches, crossed no man's land, and gathered to bury their dead, exchange gifts, and play games. Meanwhile, it's 2017. The West has been at peace for decades, and wow, we suck at trust. Surveys show that over the past 40 years, fewer and fewer people say they trust each other. Here's our puzzle. Why even in peacetime do friends become enemies, and why even in wartime do enemies become friends? Well, not in Israel, I can tell you that. Let's play a game. This is called the game of trust. You have one choice. In front of you is a machine. If you put a coin in the machine, the other player gets 3 coins, and vice versa. You both can either choose to cooperate, put in a coin, or cheat, don't put in a coin. Let's say the other player cheats and doesn't put into a coin. What should you do? Exactly. Why let that moocher mooch off of you? If you cooperate and they cheat, you lose a coin while they gain 3. -1 for you, +3 for them. If you both cheat, neither of you gain or lose anything. Score 0 versus 0. Therefore, you should cheat. This basic insight, which is if you are giving people shit and they don't reciprocate, you're a fucking dope. And you're going to end up with nothing because they're going to keep stealing from you. Can I zoom in? Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Let's say the other person cooperates and puts in a coin. What should you do now? What's the answer, chat? The other player cooperates and puts in a coin. What should you do? Chat, what should we do? I'm testing you. Look at all these people. They're all saying cooperate. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet? Let's say the Republican Party said, Mike, we're going to let you draw the maps. You hate gerrymandering, Mike. I'm going to let you draw all the maps for Congress in all 50 states. You know what I would do? I would fucking gerrymander the ever-loving shit out of that. I would draw the most. I would make the Republican Party so small they'd have 50 fucking congressmen after I was done with the maps. There would be a single Republican from Illinois, New York City, fucking California would have no Republican representatives. I would gerrymander every goddamn seat to the maximum possible degree. And I would put progressives in every single one. Why? Because I understand the power. Wow, that's mean. And also the correct answer. Because if you both cooperate, you both give up a coin to gain 3. +2 +2. But if you cheat and they cooperate, you'll gain 3 coins at the cost of their 1. Therefore, you should still cheat. And that's our dilemma. Trust is nice, but it can let others take advantage of you or shoot you as you come unarmed out of a trench. Sometimes distrust is rational. But now, what happens if we play the game more than once? And this is what's been happening, is that liberals are getting cucked and they're getting cheated and they never fight fire with fire. It is time to fight fire with fire. If you want the Republicans to be good, you have to be just as harsh and just as dangerous and just as willing to do what it takes to win. And that's the only way. Now let's play for real. You'll be playing against 5 different opponents, each with their own strategy. With each opponent, you'll play anywhere between 3 to 7 rounds. You don't know in advance when the last round is. Can you trust them, or rather, can they trust you? So the best strategy is to lead with cooperation. My strategy is a slightly suboptimal strategy. It's called the grudger strategy. The grudger strategy is a strategy where I cooperate, and if somebody ever cheats me, I never ever cooperate with them again. Now, that's a good strategy when the world is full of assholes. So I always start with cooperation, and I keep cooperating, and then I cheat. Get fucked. Because if you know it's the last round, you should cheat. And that's why I knew Joe Biden was going to pardon his entire family, because he's not playing the game anymore. So he gets to use the pardon ability to pardon his entire fucking criminal family. Because why? None of those Bidens are ever going anywhere in politics. All right, this guy looks like an asshole. This guy looks like an asshole. This guy looks like a business owner. We ain't cooperating with this motherfucker. I could just sense it. This looks like Nancy Pelosi. This looks like Nancy Pelosi. So since this character looks like Nancy Pelosi, you know what that means, motherfucker? You know what that means? We're gonna eat our fucking lunch. We're cheating every time, bitch. Yeah! Woo! Woo! Oh shit. This is me. Oh, this is me. I can tell. He's got the sheriff's hat on. He's just waiting for me to cheat. He'll blast me if I cheat. This motherfucker's gonna blast me if I cheat. Okay, we're cooperating. Yoink, motherfucker, bitch! I shot him in the back anyway, because that's the way I am. Never trust. Mike from PA. I'll cooperate with you 4 times, and just when you let down your guard, blasto! I'm just kidding. I'm just very good at these kind of strategy games. Okay, anyway. This looks like Sherlock fucking Holmes. So what does Sherlock Holmes do? Sherlock Holmes is an investigator, which means this guy's gonna try to figure out if he could fuck with me. All right? So I'm gonna lead with cooperate. If he cheats my ass, I'm cheating all the rest of the way. Fuck you. I got a 41. The highest possible score is a 49, which is almost impossible. I'm a grudger, bitch. You cheat me once, I ain't ever cooperating again. All right. So your total score is 41, which is pretty good. The lowest and highest possible scores are 7 and 47 or 49 respectively. So who were those strange characters you played against? Always cooperate. Let's be best friends. That's Nancy Pelosi. That's why we're in this mess. Because when they fucked over the Democrats and stole a Supreme Court seat, you know what the Democrats should have come into office like? They should have said, they stole a Supreme Court seat. We're taking 3 back. We're taking 5. They stole a Supreme Court for Barack Obama's. We're coming in and we're taking it back. And nobody could have complained. They would. What are they going to do? Well, it's not fair. You're stealing it back. The Democrats said, okay, well, you stole that one. Well, let's stop stealing Supreme Court seats. Do we all agree? You incentivize it. Always cheat. This is the businessman. I knew it. I fucking knew it. Copycat. Hello. I start with cooperate, and afterwards I just copy whatever you did last round. Meow. And grudger. Listen, partner. I'll start cooperating and keep cooperating, but if you ever cheat me, I'll cheat you back till the end of tarnation. And detective. First, I analyze you. I start cooperate, cheat, cooperate, cooperate. If you cheat back, I'll act like a copycat. If you never cheat back, I'll act like always cheat to exploit you. Elementary, my dear Watson. Now, what if these characters play against each other? Honestly, the best strategy is copycat. Of these strategies, the best strategy is copycat. But it depends upon what the rewards are for cheating. And it depends based on what we saw before, the best strategy right now is copycat. But if you make, it depends on the ratio between the different strategies. The worst strategy is always cooperate. That is by far and away the worst strategy by far. And that's the strategy of the Democratic Party. Each character will now play against each other character. There's 10 paired matches and 10 rounds per match. What do you think the highest total score? Who do you think will get the highest total score? Think about it carefully and then place your bets. Okay. So against always cooperate, always cheat will have the highest possible score. Because they'll play always cooperate and they'll play. But when they play partner, they're going to get a very low score because they're both going to cheat each other back. Detective is going to get a better score against the always cooperate. So I think the best score is going to be copycat because they're the one who's going to have the most cooperation rounds. So copycat narrowly loses against always cheat because they get you for the first round. Then versus grudge, so they get a pretty good score. So 57 for a copycat. Now we're going to go quickly. So the cheater actually underscored copycat because they got detected by the detective. They got revenge from the grudger, and their exploitation of the fucking dopey Nancy Pelosi didn't give them enough of a lead. So the grudger, all right, I was right. The copycat won. Veritasium did a video on these different types of cooperate versus greedy decision-making algorithms that showed that cooperative algorithms were always better than greedy ones. It depends. It actually depends upon the conditions. Congratulations, you placed your bet on the right horse. Copycat goes by many names: the golden rule, reciprocal altruism, tit for tat, or live and let live. That's why peace could emerge in the trenches of World War I. When you're forced to play the same game with the same specific people, not just say the same generic enemy over and over again, copycat doesn't just win the battle, it wins the war. But if things were change a lot when you play multiple rounds of the same game, what if we play multiple tournaments? Let's our population of players evolve over time. It's a 3-step dance. Play a tournament, eliminate the losers, get rid of the 5 worst players. If there's a tie, pick randomly between them. Clone the 5 best players. How does society change? Okay. So in this environment where there's a bunch of Nancy Pelosi's and a lot of cheaters, the problem is that the cheaters are going to overwhelm the copycats. But because the best 5 players are going to be cheaters, then the next time it's going to be cheaters. I think the cheaters are going to actually win, but it might be it's either copycat or cheaters. But I think in this environment with this many dopes, I think the cheaters might win. But I think it might be copycat. I think copycat's going to storm back. Once all the idiots are down, the copycats are going to storm back. That's what I think is going to happen. Now I feel like I'm wrong. Because the cooperates are gonna, here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna store back because they're gonna cooperate with each other and they're gonna start winning and start eliminating all the cheaters. And this right here explains socialism. The cheaters get rid of the dopes, but then the socialists come in. Liberals have to be eliminated for socialism to win. That's the only way. In order for us to win, we've got to get rid of the Nancy Pelosi's. We have to get rid of the Chuck Schumers. We have to get rid of the John Fettermans. That's the reality. The people that are dopes, the people that get taken advantage of and never fight back ever, are the ones that have to go before we can come together and build a better future. That's the lesson that needs to be learned. Sometimes a few grudgers may stick around because when all the players except grudger and copycat are eliminated, the 2 tie. So as you can see, grudgers and copycats can live in harmony because there's no reason for you to have a grudge if everyone's cooperating. Look around. The world's full of total jerkwads. If copycat is the strategy in this repeated game of trust that's so powerful that even soldiers in World War I trenches independently evolved a similar strategy called live and let live, why then are there so many untrusting, untrustworthy people? What is causing our epidemic of untrust? The clue's in the name itself, in this repeated game of trust. So far, we've only talked about change in the players. What about a change in the game? What could lead to the evolution of distrust? Why are we getting fucked up? Let's start with something nice. Here's a world filled entirely with always cooperates except for one always cheat and one copycat. As you already know, copycat wins handily in the long run under our current rules. That's under our current rules, which say that players play against each other for 10 rounds per match. Does copycat still win at 7, 5, 3, 2, 1? The fewer rounds, the better that cheating is the answer. So I think it's around 3 where it's like cheating is good. Yeah. See, so the cheaters win. If you only interact with someone for a shorter period of time, cheating is advantageous. I think 5 is when the cheaters start to get knocked out. Maybe it's 7. It's somewhere around here. Yeah. Let's see, 6. I'm just experimenting. Yeah. So 5 or 6 rounds. As you saw, if you don't play enough rounds, 5 or less, always cheats dominates. In 1985, when Americans were asked how many close friends they had, the most common answer was 3. In 2004, the most common answer was 0. We have fewer friends across racial, class, economic, and political lines because you have fewer friends, period. And just as you've discovered for yourself, the fewer repeated interactions there are, the more distrust will spread. Here's another way to breed distrust. Here are the payoffs for the trust game. With normal payoffs, copycat wins. But now change the both cooperate to +2, from +2 to +1. And then, so the reward for cooperating is less than cheating. People are going to cheat. And that's the world we're living in. The same thing always happens. With a lower win-win reward, always cheat takes over. Game theory has 2 powerful ideas about this. Zero-sum game. This is sadly common belief that for us, gains for us must come at a loss to them and vice versa. Non-zero-sum game. This is when people make the hard effort to create a win-win solution. Without the non-zero-sum game, trust cannot evolve. So in other words, my life will be better if you have public transit, you have social housing, you have healthcare, you have college. By me supporting you, my life will get better because I'll have the high quality doctors to take care of me because they got that education. I'll be able to travel to the beach when I want to for a low amount of price. I'm going to avoid, there's going to be less traffic when I do have to drive. Taking care of you takes care of me. Speaking of which, let's look at our third and final barrier for the evolution of trust. As cool as copycat is, it has a huge fatal weakness I haven't mentioned yet. To understand the problem, let's say 2 copycats are playing against each other. Being nice players, most of their first moves will be cooperate. And normally, they just play back at each other's kindness and sing kumbaya until the end of time. But what if, while trying to reciprocate goodness... Oh no, he tripped! He missed! He forgot to put his coin in! He missed! Now this guy thinks he's a cheating asshole. Oh no, mistakes, miscommunication, misinterpretations, accidents happen all the time in real life. What if the person doesn't think it was an accident? And the other player, being a copycat, had to retaliate. And you, being a copycat as well, you also have to retaliate. Thus, like the Hatfields and McCoys, the 2 copycats will spiral into an endless cycle of vengeance that started over a single mistake long ago. Tragic. But now, are there other types of players who can deal with mistakes? This is called the evolution of forgiveness. Forgiveness is what's necessary for us to get back to cooperating. But in order for me to forgive you, you've got to stop cheating. Forgiveness happens when you stop being a cheater, not before. And if you keep cheating, then I can't forgive you. Copykin, hello, I'm like Copycat, except I cheat back only after you cheat me twice in a row. After all, the first one could be a mistake. Simpleton. Hi, I start cooperate. If you cooperate back, I do the same thing as last move, even if it mistake. If you cheat back, I do the opposite thing as last move, even if mistake. And here's one of the things you're going to find that's really interesting. Simpleton is a very strong strategy in life. Simpleton is actually a very surprisingly strong strategy in life. Being kind of a moron is actually an advantage, and you're gonna see that. If you ever wonder why are there so many assholes who can't see what I'm saying, why are there so many assholes that fuck things up, it's because it's actually a good strategy. Random, monkey robot, ninja pizza tacos, lol, I'm so random, just plays cheat or cooperate randomly. Okay. Random sucks. Let's start with the dozen always cooperates versus our old winner, the fair copycat, and our 3 new characters, the forgiving copy kitten, the dull simpleton, and the silly random. Okay, in this strategy, simpleton is the best. Why is simpleton the best? Can somebody figure out why simpleton is the best? Why is simpleton the best strategy? This is exactly when it's a good time to be a moron. It's a good time to be a moron because there's no assholes in this group. When there are no assholes in a group, being a moron is good. Because you will not be getting taken advantage of, but because you're a moron, you will drain resources from other people. The best time to be a moron is when there's nobody to take advantage of you. And I know that I can predict this because I could, you know, I've done this before on stream and I remember it. But even when I played it the first time, I knew simpleton was the best strategy. All right, you bet simpleton wins. Let's find out. Use the controls on your left to start the stem, quick mode, or go through step by step. You were correct! Simpleton wins. This is because simpleton is actually capable of exploiting always cooperate. They both start cooperating, but if simpleton makes a mistake and cheats, since always cooperate never retaliates, it'll keep cheating them. So you can't just be on guard for idiots, or you can't just be on guard for assholes. You also need to be on guard for idiots. And you need to let people, just because they're simpletons, just because they're stupid assholes, you need to punish them and get them back on track too. You can't just mindlessly think, oh, that was a mistake, I forgive you. They actually have to stop exploiting. The same thing as before, except instead of always half cooperate, it's half always cheat. It's a much less forgiving, more hostile environment. So in this environment, simpletons are going to get destroyed. But the best strategy in this hostile environment is forgiveness. Because when people make mistakes, not being able to forgive them leads you to become an asshole. As long as a person is legitimately sorry and they are willing to cooperate again, forgiveness is a more powerful strategy than not forgiving. This is why just because somebody was an asshole in the past, if they legitimately have changed, I will forgive them. Because it's actually the best strategy for reproducing yourself and your ideas. Copy kitten is the best strategy. You bet on copy kitten. Again, go through the simulation. You are right on the money. Copy kitten wins this time. That's surprising that even with a little meaner starting population, copy kitten, a more forgiving version of copycat, was the most successful. Note, copy kitten is so forgiving that it doesn't even entirely wipe out copycat. It shares room. In this case, a bit of miscommunication, 5% chance of mistake each round, could lead to more forgiveness. But is this true for all levels of miscommunication? So that was assuming that we're not making a ton of mistakes. 1 in 20 mistakes. Use the slider below to change the amount of miscommunication, then hit start. Okay, so let's make there be more mistakes. I think under a situation of more mistakes, I think the closer you get to 50% chance of mistake, the closer you get to random doing well. I think 20% is an important breakpoint. Yeah, if people are making too many mistakes, then forgiveness isn't a good strategy. I think if you get close to, if you go to 50, then like a random is in there as well. And then everybody becomes random. Everyone becomes random at 50%. I think it's like, yeah, like the more mistakes people make, the more being an asshole is a good strat. Yeah. The results turn out something like this. At 0%, the fair copycat wins. At 1 to 9%, the forgiving copy kitten wins. At 10 to 49%, the unforgiving always cheat wins. And at 50%, nobody wins ever. This is why miscommunication is such an interesting barrier to trust. A little bit of it leads to forgiveness, but too much and it leads to widespread distrust. I think our modern media technology, as much as it has helped us increase communication, it has increased our miscommunication much more. All right, now it's sandbox mode, chat. Let's increase the cost or the value of cheating and just see what happened. If you increase the value of cheating, I think grudgers do well. Oh wait, so this is actually really interesting. Let's do this again. So what happens here, if you increase the payoff of cheating, grudgers do well and they kill out all the assholes and the simpletons, and then the copy kittens come back. That's really interesting. Stop giving a shit. Thank you so much for the 20 tier 1s. All right, let's really increase the price of the value of cheating, and let's make mistakes go up a little bit. Interesting. I wonder if we like make cheating really profitable. Okay, the most you could do. Yeah. Yeah. So if you make cheating profitable, what happens is people that hold a grudge but who are cooperators win. And this is the society we're in today. And this is me. We need more Mike from PAs. Because right now being a cheating asshole is hyper profitable, which means if you want to cooperate, we need to come in and start blasting motherfuckers, hypothetically, metaphorically, so that we could get into a cooperative environment. Game theory has showed us 3 things we need for the evolution of trust: repeated interactions, possible win-wins, and low miscommunication. Of course, real-world trust is affected by much more than this. There's reputation, shared values, contracts, cultural markers, etc. Let's not forget the biggest lesson. What the game is defines what the players do. Our problem today isn't just that people are losing trust, it's that our environment acts against the evolution of trust. This may be cynical or naive, that we're merely products of our environment, but as the game theory reminds us, we are each other's environment. In the short run, the game defines the players. In the long run, it's us players who define the game. So do what you can do. Create conditions necessary to evolve trust, build relationship, find win-wins, communicate clearly, and maybe then we can stop firing at each other, get out of our own trenches, cross no man's land, come together, and all learn to live and let live. If you're interested in this game, here is a link. And I think that'll be where we call it today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about this situation. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. This is the Central Committee stream. Make sure you hit that follow button. We're all going to die unless we figure out a way to build trust and cooperation. You mean the structure influences the individuals in it, and the individuals influence the structure? That almost sounds like superstructure theory, doesn't it? It sounds like the Marxists were right again. All right, everybody, stay safe out there. Solidarity forever. See you soon. And we have got to destroy the centrist Democratic Party. Free Palestine.